All right, Krug Show back with you on the weekend. A little NFL draft day number 3 breakdown. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope you enjoyed the draft. Warriors dangling by a thread. The season could end tomorrow, but we'll save that for another day. Giants game tonight was like a video game against the Padres in Mexico City. With Padres with those terrible uniforms. But we are going to talk about the NFL draft. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. 2 locations. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. 7 days a week in Marin County from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle. Get the brisket. Say hi to Damon. Say hi to Mary. And thanks to them for being a sponsor of the Krug Show. And with us today on the show for the very first time, Rob Stats Guerrera, who has streams regularly with Grant and with Vish, and this is our first meeting. We met over Twitter, over me running my mouth, and Rob calling me out, and now here he is to talk a little bit about. But of course, we're not just here to talk about that. We'll get into that. We'll get into Trey. We'll get into my big mouth talking big about Trey and a trade. We'll talk about the Niners draft, which is obviously more important than any of the beef. MF right away. Does Rob have beef with Larry? Give it time, MF. Give it time. Let's let this thing marinate just a little bit. Rob, good to see you. Welcome to the Krug Show, and nice to meet you. We caught up for a brief minute off air. It's a pleasure. I've heard good things about you from Vish. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Larry. I was hoping you had so many 49ers people on here. I was hoping to get a chance to join you.
Well, and how long have you been covering the 49ers? And, we've talked about the different things. You worked for Florio and NBC, and you've worked for ESPN and in Bristol, and you're in Connecticut, by the way. How long have you been covering the Niners? Or is this a recent thing? Are you a Niner fan from birth? Did you used to live out here? What attracted you to the 49ers?
So I've been Connecticut born and raised my whole life, but I didn't want to have to choose between the Jets, Giants, and Patriots in the early 90s when I was, just starting my NFL fandom. So I picked the 49ers because they were pretty good at the time. And once you pick your team, that's it. You got to stick with them. So I've been a fan forever. And then obviously covering the league for Pro Football Talk. And then I actually covered the Niners for Niners Nation for about 2 years before they gave me the old heave-ho in a round of layoffs, so now I do it for the Gold Standard Podcast Network. And how's it going? I saw in January you kind of went out on your own, and I when I saw your initial thing saying, "Oh, I've been," they downsized and everything. It's like it's just such a familiar refrain in old media. Me coming from radio, kind of know the budgetary limitations, and it's like. It's a tough. We're in a very an evolving world, and in a way, when I saw that, I could kind of, and I don't know you, and I have no idea what your life, what if this, where this is in your life, and what the income level and all that kind of stuff. But I felt for you because I was like, it's tough getting kicked out, and it's then going out on your own, and it's a vulnerable time. But I kind of admired the way you did it. I felt like you did it kind of the way I did it, which is don't sit around and perfect the story of how, SB Nation ran out of cash or radio station couldn't pay your salary or whatever it is, and just get on with who cares? Nobody cares. Just go out there and produce do your thing, produce your content, and we're in an era now when it's all possible. Yeah, I mean, this is really, if you're going to get laid off doing this kind of job, 2023 is a good year to do it just because you're able to bounce back so quickly. And I got laid off right before the NFC Championship game. So it was like, we can't stop, like this is prime time, this is where the audience is. So we just started everything up and, it's tough, but you got to put the work in. We're building the audience. We had almost 3 million downloads last year. So people are there and I'm so grateful for the community. I had a ton of nice messages from everybody when the news came down, encouraging me to kind of do my own thing. And so I did. And I love it.
I thought it was really interesting when they had that little, who was it that actually came up with the little round table NCAA tournament? Was that you? That was you,
That was
right?
me. Yeah,
Yes,
you
that
came
was
up with
me.
that. I really thought that was cool from the standpoint of it was very revealing how much more traction the 49er content creators typically have in at least the Twitter audience, because it was a Twitter-based thing, wasn't it? It was, or am I missing that? Because
That
it was.
yeah, because we don't have a website yet. We're getting that up and running, but we just primarily did it on Twitter. But I want to say I did a bad job with that. I didn't
Well,
think of it early enough. I wanted to get it out, right in March when everyone's bracket crazy. But there were a lot of people that I left off that I have apologized to. So we're going to do it every year. We're going to do it next year. It's going to be much bigger next year because there's more people that I should have included and didn't, and that's my bad. But I wanted to see kind of the lay of the land there because there's so many of us. The 49ers have a very unique community of content creators that I don't think other teams have. And so I wanted to kind of see where everybody stood. And it was just supposed to be a fun thing to get everybody exposure. I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone or anything like that. But I thought it was pretty revealing.
Yeah, I thought it was too, because it showed kind of that a lot of the I say old media, I'm talking about the traditional, let's say traditional media, were kind of passed by people who, in some cases, aren't working at all. I mean, they're working for themselves, but there were people who took down established media people, and it was quite impressive to see how many content creators have traction with the audience that at least in the Twitter side of things really started to speak loudly. I thought that was very impressive. And I do a number of live streams with a bunch of media content creators, and I didn't realize a couple of them weren't on there. And I was like, oh, where are you bracketed? Then I feel like a jackass because, I'm not on there. And it's like, oh, well, you should be on there. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But I hear you.
That's why I say I did a bad job. But it will be
no,
better
but
next year.
overall, how many total clicks do you think that thing got? I mean, what was the outcome of it?
It was hundreds of thousands at least at the last. I haven't checked actually.
I know it's hundreds of thousands. I mean, myself, I voted at least 100,000 times.
Yes, I do appreciate you embrace the bracket early on. But yeah, I was surprised at the amount of engagement that it got. And I'm grateful for it because, like I said, it just gets everybody exposure. And especially once I kind of stepped out and started doing this on my own, you realize, wow, who else is out there? And you see that there's a lot of great content creators and people covering this team out there that you might not have been aware of. So hopefully you are now.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the 49er discussion first of all. What did you think of the draft? We'll just start with that.
I think it started a little rocky and then got better as it went along. I think the Niners' ability to find talent later on in the draft showed up once again. And I think that people made way too much out of the fact that they took a kicker. People freaked out about that. It is not that big a deal. It's just not.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, I get it. I mean, what's our most recent example of a highly drafted kicker is Roberto Aguayo. He went in the second round. He was bounced out of the league in 1 year. Everybody looks at that and goes, "What the hell? Why are you going kicker in the third round?" Or how good was Roberto Aguayo in round 2? So I get the whole notion of, you know what, forget your analysis, forget your points, forget your reasoning. A kicker in the third round's too damn early. I get and it's an easy thing to sell if you're going to stand in front of a camera and get emotional about it and be like, a kicker, oh! It's, and then people are, look at that guy, click on that, look at that. But I understood their reasoning. I actually believe their reasoning. I agree with their reasoning. If you go back and look at history, the kickers go in the fourth round. They wanted a kicker. They decided they wanted the best kicker. They thought he was going to go in the fourth round. They didn't have a fourth round pick. They used their compensatory at the end of the third on the kicker, and that's their story, and they're sticking with it. And I think that's a reasonable take. I guess I've gone through enough drafts now to just go, you know what? You're going to have some guy that you're going to draft early that you're going to be like, what? Why? But then you're also going to have some guy that you sign after the draft that you're like, wow, how come that guy didn't get drafted? To me, this is that draft because I went to the Mel Kiper mock about whatever it was 10 days ago, and he had Joey Fisher from Shepherd going to the Niners at the end of the third round. And I started watching film on the guy because I don't watch Shepherd. And it was like, whoa, look at this guy. This guy's this guy's ragdolling people, and he's a great story, and he looks good. I read his whole bio. He's 25. He was a locksmith, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm thinking, this guy's, Kiper saying he's going in the third round. They got him today as an undrafted free agent. Moody, I would have thought, hey, can you get a kicker? Yeah, maybe get one as an undrafted free agent. Instead, you used a third-round pick. So, I don't know. To me, maybe I'm too easy going on this, on this part of it. But I look at it as a wash. It's like, yeah, I was like the rest of the crew going, kicker, third round, really? We're inventing needs when you have you left no right tackle and you just lost 700 snaps in your freaking D-line and two of your best DBs just walked away in free agency and you got needs on other spots. You got guys getting old and you're going to sit there and go kicker like you've got it made when you get the Eagles stocking up. I don't know. It rubbed me wrong. But now after watching Fisher as an undrafted guy, to me, I guess I can come to grips with it.
The line that I keep going back to is kickers are like lawyers, right? Everybody hates them until you need one. And then you want
need a great one.
Ever. Yeah. Like you give me the person that's going to deliver constantly. And yes, they could have taken another player instead of a kicker. That player could have been Jalen Hurd, right? We do this thing with draft picks where before we attach a name to them, they're so valuable. We hold them up so high.
It could be a Hall of Famer.
Right. But it also could be Solomon Thomas or AJ Jenkins or JJ Stokes if you're old enough.
Right.
Once you attach a name to it, it's totally different. And Moody could be terrible. We don't know, but I can't get that worked up about it. They do need a kicker, especially one that can handle kickoffs. Robbie Gould was terrible at kickoffs, and I'm not going to get that bent out of shape about it, especially if this guy is, as he's purported to be, very clutch, very even-keeled, kind of a stone-cold guy, because Kyle Shanahan loves to cart out the kicker on fourth down.
Well, and we're all, I'll admit it, I'm spoiled. We're spoiled by Robbie Gould. Niners line up for a kick in the postseason. You're thinking, hopefully it'll make it. It's got to be made. We're in that mode. It's got to be made. We've never, for the most part, we haven't seen one missed in recent years, so that's our standard. We're just like, you just make all the kicks. And in reality, we live in a world where Cody Parkey hit 3 crossbars or whatever. And guys, there's all kinds of Scott Norwood blew a Super Bowl. And, that's the reality of the kicker position. The one thing I liked about this kicker from Michigan is he went 4 for 4 in the college football playoffs with the pressure on the line. Now, there is some debate, Rob, over whether the guy's got a leg or not. People are saying, well, he doesn't have a great leg. I think the NFL.com report was like, he doesn't have a great leg. But then he's connected from 59, so that sounds like a pretty great leg to me. He's got a really good mark on kickoffs. All I got to say is I've met Brian Schneider. I think Brian Schneider's really good. I think that was a terrific addition. Just from talking to Robbie Gould about Brian Schneider last year, he was like, man, we've got simple plans. They're smart plans. He's a really good special team coach. We've got total confidence in him. So you know what? Under Schneider, because I've got confidence in him that he's an established guy, if they want to make some investment on special teams long-term, in this case, this year with Jake Moody, I'll roll with it. I think somebody made the point, look, the guy becomes your awesome kicker in 3 years. Is anybody going to remember that you used a compensatory third on him? Or are you just going to be damn glad that you got a great kicker? So I get that reasoning, so I guess I'm okay with it. But I'll say at the time, I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. They're going kicker in the third round. I couldn't believe it. And I love Grant's video. Grant was like, kicker.
But Patriots took a kicker, I think, 14 picks later. Right. So
the Maryland kid, Ryland.
So are we going to, no one has said boo about the Patriots taking a kicker.
I just don't like the philosophy, period. Because, the Niners took Wishnowsky in the 4th, and I think the Patriots took the Stanford punter. He was awesome, but I forget his name. But he went in the 5th or 6th. I think he went in the 6th. I think the Niners took Wishnowsky in the 4th, and they took their awesome punter in the 6th. They've already moved on. They've already cut him. And then Wishnowsky, how would you, if you said Wishnowsky, Do you feel good about him? Great about him? I mean, I don't think his numbers. I mean, I know he's a nice guy. I talked to him a few times last year, but as far as where he ranks, I don't think he ranks all that high.
Yeah, he's fine. He's nothing special about him. Like, I know he has all these like knuckle punts and banana kicks and all that crap.
Touch.
He's a punter. He's a punter. Yeah. He's interchangeable.
Is Jair Brown a plug and play starter, and Tayshaun Gibson, signed here and thought he was the starter, but now is going to wind up coming off the bench? How do you see that? Because it's a young secondary with a lot of young faces, and I thought Tayshaun was in some ways the perfect veteran. But then I love this kid Brown a lot. I liked him. I did videos on him 3-4 weeks ago. He's been on that freaks list all year. I think he power cleans like 465. He's got all kinds of strength. And then he was the MVP of the Rose Bowl. So the guy's an athlete and he's a football player, despite that 465. Is he going to unseat Gibson?
He might. I mean, Kyle said today the best guy's going to play. He always gives the caveat of like, it'll be hard to do, but the best guy's going to play. And he actually got the 40 to a 4.58 at his pro day, if that makes anybody feel any better. But I think that I like what the Niners are doing at safety. I think what they have figured out is they had Jimmy Ward and they had Tart at safety, and they didn't make any big plays. They didn't allow any big plays, but they didn't make any big plays. And I think with Hufanga, the 49ers realized, hey, we'll give up the occasional big play every once in a while. We're okay with that if we get game-changing plays in exchange, like the pick six that Hufanga had against the Rams that won them that game as the Rams were driving to, I believe, tie the score. So I think the Niners have kind of switched philosophically at safety, and I think they're willing to say, give me the instinctual kind of right place, right time kind of guy, and we'll live with some mistakes every once in a while because we think that's going to win more games for us, and I kind of agree with them.
To me, it's like I'm not worried about the 40 time at safety. It's not that I don't care about 40 times. I care about 40 times for corners, for receivers, maybe even for defensive ends. But to me, I'm not that worried about a slow-ish 40 time for a proven safety who's, as I said, a proven player from a big conference. I'm not that concerned. I actually really like that pick, and to me that pick was fine. The kicker, even though I kind of was like, that was fine. I didn't like the Alabama tight end pick very much at the end of the third round. I just thought there were so many better players there, including so many better tight ends. What did you hear anything from? And some of the people that said, "Hey, you should have heard the interview that Lynch did after the game on the radio." You might have a different perspective on the Alabama tight end. I've watched him a lot, so I don't know about if I'll change my opinion on him. But what do you think? What was your first impression? What's your impression now that you've had 24 hours to kind of do the deep dive and hear what people have to say?
Of all the tight ends in the draft, this was not the one I thought that the 49ers would take. He's not their kind of, if you were looking for a Kittle replacement, which I think the 49ers absolutely were. I know George got real salty about that at me on Twitter. He doesn't like the fact that I don't think
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
He doesn't like that. I don't think he's going to finish his contract, which Matt Barrow said the same thing, by the way. But this guy,
but he kind of went like this with his hand, I think.
Think of Vernon Davis, right? Vernon Davis was a freak. He ran a 4.36 coming out of college, just a massive athlete at tight end. Latu's like the opposite. He's like the anti-Vernon Davis. He doesn't break a ton of tackles. He's not super athletic. He's just kind of like a guy there. I don't know. It stunned me that that's who they went to because it doesn't seem to fit the profile of everything they like on offense. I know he did average like 7 yards. I think was it him that averaged 7 yards after the catch, or it might have been Willis. It was one of the tight ends. So maybe I'm getting them confused at that point. But I just thought that I agree with you. I think they were better tight ends at the time to take. And I don't know what specifically about him they said, we got to have this guy right now.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I'll say this. There's a number of athletic players for Bama that won't stand out to you. just because there's so many other athletes. I thought the D tackle that the Raiders drafted today, Byron Young, the other Byron Young, the non-Tennessee Byron Young, I think he's really, really good. I watched his film, but like I watched Bama a bunch and he didn't stand out, and I've watched Bama a bunch and this tight end didn't really stand out. He looks pretty athletic, but when I watch him run routes, he looks like he's going at about 75%. He doesn't look like he's like going full speed when he's running routes. That's kind of a bizarre thing to see. And then, they said his lower body strength isn't there, so you're probably not going to get a lot of pop in the run game. So, I mean, I'd love to know, like, just give me a basic idea. What would you say you do here? I mean, are you a blocker? Are you a runner? And then what did you think of the other tight end? They had brought in Braden Willis. He sounds almost more like a fullback, Rob, than a tight end. But I loved what I saw from Willis when I watched the film of him. And I'll say this, I loved his reaction today. I don't know if you saw that video where he's like, everybody's going to regret, passing on me. I like guys who are pissed off, who say, you know what, I'm the baddest MF in here. I mean, I kind of like that attitude. And a buddy of mine who went in there and saw his team a bunch of times said, you know what, this guy is actually a player. So I don't know if he's kind of short, right? He's like 6'2" instead of 6'4". I don't know. I didn't see anything special, but is he a receiver? Is he a blocker? Or is the advantage for him is that you don't know if he's a blocker or a receiver, so you can kind of play him and the defense doesn't know, hey, we've got a receiver in there like a Ross Dwelly, or hey, we got Charlie Warner in there who's not much of a receiver, but he's a try-hard blocker. I don't know. I mean, is this guy supposed to be, to me, he's better than those guys, but that's not saying a whole lot.
That's a low bar. If you look at his experience, he has experience moving all over the field, and so when he was picked, I was like, oh, okay, this is their kind of use check.
H-back.
Yeah, if Kyle goes down, then they can slot him in there. But he was pretty adamant after the pick was made that, like, no, I'm a tight end. I'm going to be a tight end. Now, who knows? Kyle may say, yeah, that's all well and good. Now go line up at fullback. But that's what I thought they were going to do with him, was that they were going to just be the kind of H-back gadget guy, move all over the place. Kyle loves positionless football. His dream is to be able to have people on the field that he could line up everywhere, any position, anytime, especially if they want to go hurry up, right? You could have Debo in the backfield one play, McCaffrey out wide, just to have everybody in and out constantly all the time, and the defense's head is spinning.
Yeah, I mean, creating a little indecision is always a good thing. But at the end of the day, I mean, Payne Durham was sitting there. I think he went like 2 rounds later. There was a bunch of guys. There was a bunch of tight ends that went before. So maybe they I know, and they worked this guy out. They looked at him ahead of time. So this is not. It's not like, hey, we didn't have a guy. That you handpicked this guy. You brought this guy in on. Didn't he come in on a 30 visit?
I think he did. Yeah.
So or if he didn't, they had some other connection to him, because I did see him on the list there. Another guy, and that's another kind of interesting thing. They keep drafting the guys that they bring in, which I think makes sense, because you're going to play games with that, or are you really going to use that time to actually try to get to know these prospects? It sounds like for them it's the latter, and that to me is thoroughly reasonable. The player, one of the players I loved the most in this draft was the corner from South Alabama, who I watched a lot about a month ago when I saw that they had brought him in. I really like him. He's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Darrell Luter, good-sized corner. Looks like he can play outside. There's a lot of slot corners. This guy's got long arms, and the 40 times okay. To me, it's not a concern because he's field fast. He looked plenty fast enough to me. I like that program quite a bit. What did you think of Luter at the beginning of day 3 today?
They had to get corner help. They needed it. I mean, even now, I still
They still need a corner, huh?
Yeah, I don't really feel comfortable with the depth that they have there. But I think what they mentioned today in the press conference was his play strength specifically. They think he's strong. They like the long arms. They have a very specific type of corner, and they like his versatility. They really want guys that they could move all over the field too, like we were just talking about on offense. And they got to get it right? You've got Womack, you've got Ambry Thomas, now you've got Luter there. one of these players has to emerge because it can't just be Diamador Lenore and Mooney Ward. You got to have, especially in that division in the West where there's a ton of good wide receivers, you got to get this thing right. I don't care who it is. I thought it was going to be Samuel Womack for a little while, and then he kind of disappeared. Lenore seems to have stepped up, which is great, but they need more help there, so they absolutely had to add.
Yeah, I mean, heck, I was looking at the list of free agents the other day, and I saw Rock Ya-Sin is still a free agent. You know, you might want to go get him. I mean, seriously. I mean, I like that they got Luter, but I was really thinking they would go day 3 corner, maybe a couple times. And I'm with you. I don't. To me, the only thing that's proven in the secondary is that Fonga is going to be your strong safety, and Charvarius is going to be your right corner. After that, you know, is it going to be Lenore? Is it going to be Ambry? Is it going to be Luter? Is it going to, and then at the nickel? You know, I would imagine it's Isaiah Oliver, but what about Miles Hartsfield? I mean, he, you know, obviously, Wilkes knows him from Carolina. Does he have the leg up on Oliver? Does Oliver have the leg up on him? But I think just overall, since we don't know what Ambry Thomas is, and they're pretty thin across the board, I would love to see them go get a veteran defensive back, preferably a corner before camp.
Losing Emmanuel Mosley, to me, that was the most painful free agent loss for the 49ers because it's like adding another player in your batting order, right? He just lengthens your depth and your lineup there. So to not have him there, it really, really hurts. So they need to get somebody, but the problem is, like, last time they dipped into that pool, it was Josh Norman. And I can't go through that again, Larry. I just can't. I'm not strong enough as a human being.
You don't want to see Brian Allen from the Miami game? Do you remember that? They signed him on Wednesday, and Ryan Fitzpatrick literally broke the huddle that day. I'm on the binoculars, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm describing this to the guy sitting next to me. I'm like, dude, Fitzpatrick just broke the huddle. He's looking around, and I'm like, who's he looking for? He's looking for Brian Allen. He's pointing at Brian Allen. All right, let's see the play. They're going at Brian Allen. Then the next play is on the other side of the field. He comes out he's looking at Brian Allen. He's pointing at Brian Allen. He's going at Brian. I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback do that before, where he literally was breaking the huddle and looking for the guy who they signed on Wednesday and just went at him like it was the design play. It was stunning to watch. And that's just the old saying, if you don't have corners, the key to pass defense is pass defense. In other words, there is no key to pass defense. You got to have guys. And when you run out of guys and you got to go to Brian Allen on a Wednesday and play him on a Sunday, you are screwed. So, yeah. What'd you think of the kid? The most intriguing pick of the day, I thought, was the edge rusher from Georgia, from the standpoint, he's 6'4", he's 250. His highlight reel looks incredible. He was a 5-star. He runs 4.4 at 250 pounds, and he made some plays for Georgia, but it's like they recruit so many dudes that LSU, Georgia, Bama, that there's guys that are just laying around that are like 5-stars that don't really play. This guy didn't really play that much, but when he definitely showed glimpses. What'd you think of that one? A lot of people, I thought there were a lot of better players on the board. I think maybe Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan might have gone like 4 or 5 picks later, but the Niners chose to go with Beal, and the measurables are off the charts, but the production hasn't been there.
So apparently the 49ers scouting staff has this thing called GTFO. And if you know what the abbreviation is, you know what the abbreviation is. And apparently Beal had the highest GTFO score or highest amount of GTFOs out of anybody in the entire draft. And basically what the Niners were told was, let this guy put his hand in the ground, rush the passer, and set the edge, and he'll be just fine. John Lynch said in the presser today, he can't really drop back. He can do it, but like literally he's brought in to do one thing. Or two things, I guess. Set the edge and rush the passer. The Niners are so desperate for any real threat opposite Nick Bosa. They have been searching for it for years. They had it for a brief window when Dee Ford was there, when he played 22% of the snaps in 2019. Other than that, they have not been able to find it. They need more than 5.5 sacks opposite Nick Bosa. They can't get it. They're hoping between Drake Jackson, I think, and maybe Beal in a limited capacity that they could actually get a real threat on the other side, because that's how this entire defense is built to work. Rush the hell out of the passer. Fred Warner and the linebackers are going to cover, and then just pray to God the secondary holds up long enough to not allow anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying that it's a rush and cover game on defense. I mean, they believe that. They believe that wholeheartedly. Let's put a lot of rush on the field and hey, anybody back there, we'll just we'll work it out on the back end. And I know that's their philosophy because I've talked to Lynch about it. It goes back to that Raider win that they had years ago when they got some pass rush late in the year and their young DBs looked good in that particular game. And it was like this revelation. Hey, you know what? It doesn't matter if we have young guys on the back end. It doesn't matter if we don't invest a lot of draft capital in the secondary. We'll just get a big, badass front line and we'll just move the quarterback and everything else will kind of take care of itself. I think that's kind of the philosophy. But this year, I thought they needed more. I mean, they lost 700, almost 670, something like that. They lost a ton of snaps when they lost Ebukam, Amenahue, and Jordan Willis. And they're replacing them with Beal and Austin Bryant and Cleveland Farrell. I don't know, man. If there was one disappointment here this weekend from my perspective, it's that they got some nice football players, but I would have gone edge rusher at least one more time, maybe two more times. I think I would have gotten a lot more reinforcements. I don't feel that good about that. To me, their D-line with Hargraves obviously a major upgrade on Kinlaw. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But off the edge, last year they had all kinds of guys and they needed every single one of them. This year they lost 3 key guys. And I'm not a big fan of the guys they brought in. I haven't talked to you about Bryant or about Farrell, but how do you just feel overall now that we've seen the free agent, at least the first part of free agency and the big part of free agency and the draft come and go? If week 1 were a month from now, you feel good about their DNs?
Good. I wouldn't say good. I think the Niners, and I'm going to put my faith in this as well, they're counting on Chris Kasarik to basically turn chicken bleep into chicken salad. That's what he has done consistently. He has been able to take guys that have kind of underachieved in other places and get the best out of them. They brought back Kevin Givens again. He's more on the inside than the outside, but they bring off these cast-offs and they hope that they can squeeze more juice out of that orange. But do I feel great about it? No. Eric Armstead was very honest the other day when he met the media, and he basically said, we're counting on Drake Jackson. He's got to step up. He has to give us more. And I think that's something the Niners are banking on too, is that look, you had your kind of year with the training wheels. You were a part-time player and you ran out of gas at the end of the year. Now you know what it's like. You've had your year of experience. Train with Nick Bosa the whole offseason, whatever you got to do. But when the fall comes around again, you better be able to step up because he's really their biggest threat on the outside opposite Bosa.
Yeah. What'd you think of the D. Winters pick from TCU? I don't know how much TCU ball you watch, but to me, this was one of my favorite picks of the day. I love these undersized, hyperactive linebackers who make tons of tackles. To me, it's an easy projection, to the pros. It's like there's so many people walking around saying, I want this guy because he's the right height and the right speed and he ran this 40. Who cares? Who made all the tackles in the games? Those guys are going to continue to make all the tackles in the pros. And D. Winters was that kind of guy. He's not the biggest guy, but they don't want the biggest guy anymore. They want guys, 5'11" to 6'2", 6'3", 225 pounds to 215 pounds in that range, who can cover, break down in space, play coverage. I mean, it's a sub-package world that they're in right now, 75% sub-package. I love the Winters pick.
They want a guy that can go sideline to sideline for sure, and they needed to replace Azeez Al-Shire. And right now it was, Oren Burks and Marcelino McCrary Ball. You had to add there. And so they got a guy in Winters who, I know you don't care about the 40 time, but it was pretty damn good. 4.49 is pretty damn good. So you can
I think it matters for the linebackers. I just don't think it matters for, the safeties. I'm not as concerned. I mean, if you're gonna be a stacked backer in this, with the Niners essentially play like a 5-2, you better freaking be. You got 2 guys covering that second level, so you better be able to run.
But the thing I like too is he's going into a program where Fred and Dre Greenlaw are going to be able to, they're going to coach this guy up. They're going to let him know the standard that he's going to be expected to perform at. He can sit behind them. They don't need him to step in and start right away. So I kind of trust the Niners. They found it with Azeez Al-Shire. Dre Greenlaw was a 5th-round pick. Like, you feel like they know what they're looking for in this role. And so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Ronnie Bell is the pick that I can't picture him making the team. I mean, I liked him at Michigan, and he wasn't like just an extra. This guy played really well. He got tore his ACL last year. He came back, and it was like it didn't happen. I mean, he really he didn't have a big. I didn't remember seeing him with a big brace. I don't remember seeing him favorite. I thought he looked better, looked more explosive than ever this year. It was kind of amazing to watch, but I don't see him making this team. I mean, what do you make of their offseason at wide receiver?
It's not great. I mean, Debo's there and Ayuk's there, and they got Jawan Jennings in the slot for 3rd down. But like Ray McLeod doesn't do anything for me. Danny Gray has to emerge out of the abyss of the Kyle Shanahan doghouse, which I feel like that's the thing. Like Ronnie Bell, oh yeah, it's great, but are we even going to see him? Because Kyle banishes rookie wide receivers to limbo. And so even if he makes the team, we might not be able to see him. But I think what they're hoping is that maybe he could fill in that role that Jawan Jennings is going to leave after this year, because I don't think the Niners are going to pay him anything unless he wants to come back on a cheap deal. So maybe they're thinking, we'll let this guy go. We'll bring in Bell. He can be our 3rd down, that kind of like jitterbug wide receiver that we can go to have a very specific role on this team. And I don't know. I don't mean to knock Jawan Jennings or Bell. There is a role for that kind of player on the team, but I don't think he's going to be anything more than that.
Yeah. And then the Jalen Graham pick, I really did like quite a bit. I liked this guy for a couple of years. Another undersized linebacker, but this guy's solid. He's really solid. I mean, there's bigger guys, there's stronger guys, there's faster guys, but this guy, he can diagnose, and he's in the right place at the right time. I watched Purdue several times last year, and I thought Jalen Graham was all over the field. I mean, I saw him, and I'm like, wow, that guy can really move. He's really instinctive. So whatever he ran, I think he ran in the 4.6s, which once upon a time, that was damn good. Now that's like, oh, God, 4.6, get that guy off the field. Isn't it amazing how fast the linebacker position has changed? It used to be Matt Millen in the neck roll and these big old, and now it's like, hey, if you run 4.6, it's like you're going to get isolated in space, and it's like almost all the top tier linebackers are running 4.5, sub 4.5. It's a totally different game now, and to me, where you see the biggest change personnel-wise is safety. And, the Ronnie Lott and Jeff Fulcher and Joey Browner and all these yesteryear 80s, 90s safeties were all 220. Those guys are all linebackers now. And as far as, 260-pound guy, I mean, that guy's he can't stay. The Cal kid, Evan Weaver, got drafted by Arizona. He was like one of the best linebackers in the Pac-12. He ran like 4.78 or something like that. He never did anything. He literally never did anything, even though he was like the tackling machine of the Pac-12, because 4.7 linebackers in the NFL, you can't play anymore. You're on to your another career.
Yeah, 4.7. That's wow. I don't imagine there are there aren't that many non-linemen that run 4.7s in the NFL. That's pretty slow.
That's pretty slow.
In terms of Graham, Lynch said today basically they couldn't really decide between D. Winters and Jalen Graham, that they really liked both of them pretty much equally, he said. Like we talked about, Winters ran a 4.49, Graham ran a 4.64, so that may have been the deciding factor. But I think the Niners just kind of took a flyer on him at the end because he was there and they clearly liked him. They're going to need guys to play special teams. He's got experience on special teams. So I think they were basically like, what the hell? We like this guy. It's our last pick. We'll throw him out there.
Overall, the undrafted class, I haven't gone through all the names. Did you hear anything today? I mean, obviously I mentioned Joey Fisher, and I love the Joey Fisher edition. I didn't, it's funny. It's like I mentioned this to Grant and a couple other people. is O-line going to be this year's version of last year's safety, where we all went into the draft going, they're getting a safety, they're getting a safety, they're absolutely getting a safety, and then they didn't get a safety. We're like, what the hell's going on here? And then they show up and they got Gibson, and Hafanga came out, blossomed, and they signed George Odom, and they loved what he gave them as a special teamer, and they just kind of made do with what they had. Were you surprised that they didn't draft an offensive tackle?
I was. I feel like the 49ers have like one position, like you said, every year. We think it's a need for them, and then they end up not addressing it. That was the first question to Kyle and John after the draft, and basically Shanahan was like, we didn't like any of them, pretty much. Like where we were, the ones that were available, what was out there for us, we just didn't like. I think I looked quickly, so I could be wrong about this, but I think they've signed at least 3 offensive linemen after the draft. So that's good. And I think honestly that they're kind of intrigued by a couple of undrafted signings from last year in Nick Zakelj and Zakelj was drafted, but he was a late round pick, and Jason Poe. I think that there's going to be an opportunity for them this year to have an actual spot on the team as opposed to the practice squad. So I think that they didn't see it as much of a need as maybe we did on the outside. I think that was part of it. And then they got this crop of incoming linemen. But let's be honest, there were some games last year where the Niners offensive line kind of got pushed around. And if you want to get back to the Super Bowl, you're probably going to have to go through Philadelphia. Philadelphia they kicked the hell out of the 49ers offensive line in that championship game. And you could say they didn't have a quarterback, whatever, but the Eagles were mauling the 49ers offensive line. So I think they'll be okay against regular teams, but when you're going up against the cream of the crop there could be some issues everywhere except left tackle.
They're in a weird situation on the line. Brendel was a Pro Bowl alternate, but is he good enough? I like Banks a lot. I think Burford's really good. I wonder if they didn't go tackle because they think Burford's going to flex out to right tackle. I like Colton McKivitz as a pass protector, but if Colton to me, if you start Colton McKivitz, you're taking away his best attribute. His best attribute is that the guy is really naturally football smart, and he could plug in at virtually all 5 spots in a pinch, and you'd be okay. And he wouldn't panic. But to start him at right tackle, and I don't want to, if he's watching this, I don't want him to be pissed. But really, you're going to go right tackle the whole year with Colton, or is Burford the answer? The only reason I bring this up is because I thought Zakelj was really a nice pick last year. I love the way he practiced. He's 2 hands shivering guys, and every time he hits somebody, you could see their body flinch. This guy's big and strong, and he's got long arms. He's smart. And Lynch called him out the other day. He said he's having a great offseason. Where does he play? Is he a right guard? Does that mean he shares right guard with Burford? Is Zakelj play right tackle? Do you move Burford out to right tackle? And then Feliciano's a starter. I watched the NFL. I've watched that guy since he was at Miami. That guy starts. He's started almost every team that he's been on. So is he starting over Brendel? Because his best spot is center, but you're going to sit a Pro Bowl alternate? So I don't know. The offensive line's kind of a work in progress, but what's your read on it? Because they seemingly, unless Burford's not going to play tackle, or I don't know. Is Feliciano going to sit the bench? Is Zakelj not going to play? I think they've got actually some good depth here, but I love the fact that they went after Fisher, and I think that kid Manning they got is a decent player as well. I got to watch a little bit more after this stream tonight on some of these undrafted guys, but what do you think? What's your guess of left to right? We know it's Trent. Is it Trent and 4 question marks?
I think Banks has solidified his spot at left guard. I would imagine Brendel's going to be the starting center again this year. I think they're going to keep Burford at right guard. I really do. They said that Zakelj, they don't see Zakelj as playing on the outside. They see him more on the interior. So I really think that they are locked into Colton McKivitz. And the thing that scares me is, and we saw this with Mike McGlinchey too, especially in obvious passing situations, every team just takes their best pass rusher and puts him on the right side because there's no way you'd rather have him go up against Trent Williams. So poor Colton McKivitz is going to get everybody's best shot in the most critical parts of the game every single week. And am I confident that he's going to be able to hold up in those situations? Absolutely not.
Do you think there's any? Why did they why did they restructure McCaffrey? Did they talk about that today?
They kind of very quickly hand waved it away, like, oh well, we know he's going to be here, and it opens up some more money. They were even asked, like, hey, starting Monday, any free agent that you sign doesn't count against the compensatory pick formula. So you can sign anybody now, and you're not gonna have to worry about giving up a pick. So I was thinking, hey, maybe they have, a sort of handshake agreement with a Justin Houston or a Unique Ngakoue or
Leonard Floyd, maybe.
yes,
I was
some
hoping
of
Leonard
these
Floyd.
veteran pass rushers who could come in a part-time role and really have an impact. And they kind of, quickly just dismissed it. And maybe who knows what's going on there. But that's what I'm hoping for anyway, because that would be great. How much better would you feel about the defensive line if they also added a veteran guy that, has consistently put up 7 to 9 sacks?
I'll tell you, I was convinced that they were going to be in at the end of the first round or at the beginning of the second round because they met with Foskey at their pro day. I mean, why? So I guess Foskey just wanted to meet them. That was very bizarre. I really think that he might have been in some scenario a guy that they thought they could have a chance at. Artur Gazarian says, Larry, a big edge signing is coming, brother. We have the cap space now. So that's his read on the cap space.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I hope so, because otherwise Bosa's getting doubled. They're just going to slide the line to Bosa, and he's just going to face constant chips and doubles, and he may be beat up by halfway through the season. And you're not getting it done. Somebody was trying to convince me the other day, it's Cleveland Farrell, Larry. I'm like, what? No, it's not Cleveland Farrell. It is not. Yeah, I'm very convinced. I don't know who it is. It might be. It could be me. It could be you. But it's not going to be Cleveland Farrell. I don't think it's going to be Austin Bryant. Maybe it's Drake Jackson. But I get the feeling I like Drake Jackson as much as they do. He wasn't even active the last 5 games or something. So I don't know. I'm not really sure on that one. Overall, what do you think of this comment? Tribe says, Pro Football Focus gave us the absolute worst grade out of all 32 teams. Get Lynch the hell out of here already. I'm a Lynch fan because, to me, I thought last year was a really, really nice haul when you consider the draft, not having the number 1 and the undrafted guys, many of which I think are going to bust out this year. Kalia Davis, Marcelino, maybe 2 or 3 others. I love Tay Martin, but and I love some of Lynch's day 3 picks, but how do you make sense of? Does it matter? I mean, grading these things. Let's be honest, Rob. It's all guesswork. You know football. There's guys you like. I know football. There's guys I like. These guys who write for all these different blogs, they have guys that they like and they know football. But nobody's right all the time, right? And there's a failure rate to this thing that we've already kind of discussed. So, do we really care that Pro Football Focus gave us the lowest grade?
I mean, you would like to not be last, but no, I don't care. Like, the Seahawks got the lowest grade the year that they drafted Richard Sherman and all those studs that were on their defense that terrorized us for the next decade. They got like Fs for Mel Kiper Jr. Like, it stinks to read about the next day, and I totally understand that because the draft is all about hopium, right? Like that, just want everybody we pick is going to be awesome, and here we come. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. I think that Shanahan and Lynch have earned a little bit of trust from us everywhere except quarterback. I hate what they're doing at quarterback.
We're getting there next.
Everywhere else, haven't they earned trust? I mean, I was killing them for Aaron Banks, crushing them. He didn't even start. What a flop. What are they doing? And then he filled in last year for Tomlinson, and he was fine. Yeah,
he was real good.
They've earned it. I'm not gonna pound on them because we're in the NFC Championship game 3 out of the last 4 years. They have to have some idea of what they're doing. So I'm not gonna worry about it too much right now.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a pro personnel assistant director for an AFC team last August, and I said, give me your honest opinion. I know you guys have had meetings. Where do you guys rank the 49ers roster right now in the league? And he said, no doubt in my mind, Krug, Eagles, Niners, Niners, Eagles. They're 1-2, they're 2-1. You can debate it. Those are the 2 best rosters in the NFC, and they'll meet in the NFC Championship game. I mean, it was like, that's what he said. And he's like, Buffalo and Kansas City have the two best rosters in the AFC, and they will meet in the AFC Championship game. So, I mean, he came close. The guy came close. But these guys, they do. I mean, the Niners have a lot of talent. They've had a lot of talent. That's why I think there's a lot of people that push so hard on Kyle Shanahan. Prince KO says, here's a super chat, 0 quarterbacks drafted or signed as undrafted free agents. Thoughts? What did Shanahan say today about this? Did he say that they're trying to get a fourth quarterback? I mean, to me, there was two things that had to happen to quarterback for them to draft somebody. They had to trade Trey Lance or draft a quarterback. There was not the people that were like, they're not going to trade Trey Lance and they're going to draft a quarterback. That was never going to happen because you cannot have that. I mean, there's not enough room for that. You can't have 4 quarterbacks. You can't squeeze any of these guys through waivers. The Clayton Tune, DTR, you name it, none of them are going to scoot through waivers at the end of the month of August after preseason, unless they just look awful in the preseason. None of them are going to sneak through waivers. So why would you draft a guy and use a pick on a guy in April that you're going to waive in August? So to me, it was one and the other, right? You had to trade Trey, then you were going to get the other quarterback. Once there was no trade of Trey, there was not going to be another quarterback. They'll bring in somebody to have somebody there, but it's not. Maybe it's the Bonner kid from Utah State who they've been linked to a couple times. I don't know. I haven't read. I'm not up on my undrafted free agents and who's going where yet, but I saw they were interested in him. What's your read on the quarterback?
So Kyle said that he said, we'd love a fourth guy here, but it didn't sound like a priority. And he snuck in. He said, we'll get to training camp. Hopefully we'll get Brock back soon, was his exact quote. So I think that they were looking into it in the unrestricted free agent or the undrafted free agent route. It doesn't look like it's come to pass, at least as far as last time I checked. This is the only area of the roster where it's the complete opposite of everywhere else. They have burned through the benefit of the doubt. They have mishandled the quarterback situation from the second Kyle Shanahan got the job, and they're continuing to do it to this very day, and it drives me crazy. I will never understand it, and they've never explained it, and everything they've said about it doesn't hold up to the slightest amount of scrutiny whatsoever.
I was really intrigued reading your tweets today about Trey Lance. And I was watching the draft and making notes and doing videos every time the Niners, drafted somebody and trying to create as much good draft content from here. And then I saw the Ian Rappaport tweet from, during the broadcast on the NFL Network where he kind of, this guy just keeps doubling down. I mean, it's like I would stop talking about Trey Lance and trades if the guy from the NFL Network wasn't so intrigued by this. And I was reading the tea leaves, but I'm also kind of reading Ian Rappaport. What do you make of Ian Rappaport? He keeps reporting that the 49ers, when Shanahan spoke in the desert at the owners meeting, boom, later that afternoon, Sam Darnold's going to be the week 1 starter. What? Where did we get that? Nowhere did Kyle say that, but he had that story and he went with it. And then you think, well, maybe he just misspoke. Maybe he said, no. First of all, knowing these guys as we do, these guys, I mean, you've worked more nationally than I have. These guys don't misspeak. They know exactly what they say. They jot it down in a notebook and they double check it. They know exactly what they're putting out there for the public discourse, especially when it comes to quarterbacks and their stances on them. He has maintained more than one occasion that Sam Darnold's going to be the week 1 starter and that Trey Lance is going to be traded. And then today, when it didn't happen on day 3 of the draft, I'm like, well, maybe the Niners, have seen something in Trey. Maybe there's been a change of tune. Maybe I'm just misreading the way things sounded. It didn't sound like they were too interested in keeping him. Maybe I'm wrong. And then here comes Ian Rappaport saying that he could be traded this summer. And then you came out with a tweet. You said, Ian has said multiple times this offseason that Darnold is ahead of Lance on the depth chart. He ain't making that up on his own. The 49ers are so out on Trey. I hate it, but I have to accept it at this point. Now I just want to know why. What was so awful about him? So that's a really strong take, Rob. Let's go through your thoughts on Lance and where you're at, and what do you make of Rappaport?
So, yeah, multiple times this offseason, he says that Darnold's going to be ahead of Lance on the depth chart, like casually, like not even, like as if it wasn't even a question.
Right.
And look, I have worked nationally at ESPN. I've worked for Mike Florio and Pro Football Talk. Here's a secret about insiders. They don't just throw stuff out there. They form their opinions based on what they are hearing. And for Rappaport to go on TV 3 different times this offseason and say that Lance is QB3, he's not just making that up. He's not just throwing it out there for no reason. He's saying it because he's hearing it from somebody. Now, I have no idea who it is, but clearly for him to come out this consistently like that, he's hearing it from somebody. And then, I don't know if you are aware of this, Larry, Sam Darnold's personal quarterback coach is Jordan Palmer.
Was this with you and Vish that this came up in that stream?
So yeah, Vish is the one that noticed it and sent it to me.
Right.
But,
and then you guys played it on one of your shows, right?
Yes. So Jordan Palmer is Sam Darnold's quarterback coach, for anybody that doesn't know. Jordan Palmer was giving an interview with Chris Long, and he just was talking about the quarterbacks in San Francisco, and he said, Sam Darnold, the guy that's going to start there. Now, is he just confident in Sam Darnold because that's his client? I don't know. Or did maybe Sam Darnold tell him when he signed with the 49ers that they told him he's going to be the starter while Brock is out? So there's just like all these things floating around. And it's obvious that the 49ers are out on Trey, and I don't know why. What was so terrible? I know you were the Brock Purdy guy, Larry, but what was so awful about Lance that they don't even want him on the roster?
I don't know. Rob, I'm honest. I'll be honest with you. Trey's accuracy and he missed some layups, as far as this summer, but it wasn't. He misses some layups that he needs to make. It's like watching somebody in the NBA miss free throws. It's always like cringeworthy. It's like, hey, you gotta hit the back in the flat, and you can't airmail him by 8 feet. And I saw him do that a bunch of times this summer. But come on, you can't. You got Greasy, you got Shanahan, you got other offensive coaches. You can't get him to develop some touch and some timing and some tempo on his throws. He's the only thing I would say, and I said this to several people this summer when I was watching him. He's kind of one-speeded. That's my only real criticism. I have no criticism of him as an athlete. I like the way he goes through progressions. I like the ball handling, like the play fakes, the shoulder dips. He sells it very, very veteran-like, Rob. But it's the timing. The ball doesn't always come out on time. The tempo, the ball doesn't always come out in the right angle, and the accuracy is a little spotty. But I mean, we're talking about a very young quarterback who's so inexperienced. To me, it seems like correctable things that when you have his intelligence, athleticism, power, strength, and dedication to the craft, I think that, and I know people who went into Fargo and talked to him and met with him and watched his film and met the coaches, and they told me before the draft, Krug, this kid's the real deal. He lives it, breathes it, walks it. His dream is to play football. He doesn't, I don't know. I mean, I've had people whisper to me about, he's out partying and at strip clubs. I was at strip clubs at 22. Jesus, who cares? I mean, I put zero credence in that. Strip clubs. What are you kidding me? You show me a 22-year-old in America who hasn't been to a strip club. Come on.
That's 22-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, that's a non-factor. These people talk about, well, he's partying too much. No. Is he partying when he should be at the facility? Then we got a problem. Otherwise, I don't really care. I really don't care. And I can't imagine that that's part of this in any way. So I don't know. I do not know what's going on here, if they just don't feel he's accurate enough, or is it simple? Somebody said to me, Krug, you're missing it. It has nothing to do with Trey. It's just simply about their timeline. It takes precedent over his. And their timeline is, Jed and Dr. John want to see a Super Bowl. So Kyle's feeling a little pressure. And John was feeling a little pressure and doesn't want to go back to TV until he gets a Super Bowl. And Jed is not really a made man with Dr. York and his mom unless he gets the Super Bowl. So everybody's like selling out for that Super Bowl because it will change the careers of everybody in the organization. And it's really not about anything about Trey. It's just that Brock fits their current, we got to go for it timeline right now. And Trey's more like deferred gratification. I've had people say that to me, that it's really nothing about Trey. It's just about his timeline for development. Do you believe that?
I mean, my first question would be, why did they draft him in the first place? But I think the answer to that is, I think that they thought he was going to be much more of a plug and play type guy. They thought he was going to be further along. But here's the thing. He might be. He has 4 career starts, one of which came in a monsoon, and the 4th one, he didn't even get out of the first quarter. So, like, I don't understand this rush to judgment. People are like, he stinks. Every day in my mentions, people are swearing at me. He stinks. He's terrible. How could anyone know? It's impossible. It is impossible. Just like we don't know
if you say he
Brock.
stinks, you're a hater. I think is that fair?
And I think if you say he's great, you're wrong too. We have
no
clue.
Totally. If you are sold that he's great, you're whatever you want to call you. You're a Trey fan to you would be happy with anything that he does. You're just pro Trey and you're just blind. You just want to root for him. That's it. But if you're there saying this guy can't do it, you're a hater, because to me, we need more. Have you ever taken a polling class? Sample size. You gotta have a significant sample size to have a credible poll. That's the beginning of any question. Is what's the sample size of the people you asked? And we're talking about 4 games now. They've watched a lot more of him than 4 games. Is it possible in practice or something along the lines that they've just said, you know what? We don't think this guy can ever do it in our offense, or we don't want to change the offense. I don't know what it is, but I get this. I've gotten this sense this entire offseason that they're out on him, and I really thought, okay, at the time I said it, and let me just say this. I was wrong. Everybody in the chat who wants to hear me say, I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. Okay, I was wrong. Does it make it any better? Does that make it any? I was wrong. Ryan was right. By the way, tomorrow I'll be on his show doing more. I was wrong. He was right. But my take in February at the end of the football season was they're going to recommit to Brock Purdy and trade Trey Lance. And I think they're going to trade him by the draft. And that's what I said. And that was before anybody. That's before Lynch said he was the guy, the leader in the clubhouse. Before Jed, before Shanny, before anybody said anything, I said, Brock's the guy. They're going to recommit to Brock. They're going to trade Trey. They're going to do it by the draft. I kind of think it's all going to happen, just not by the draft now. I still think, if you said to me, is Brock the guy? Yes. Are they going to recommit to Brock? Yes. Are they all in on Brock over Trey? Yes. Are they going to trade Trey? Yes. But I'm still wrong, because I said it was going to be done by the draft, and the draft has come and gone, and he's here. So I will gladly take Ryan Hensley to lunch. We will do it up fat at Pig in a Pickle. We'll film it. I'll stream it so everybody can see it. We'll film it, and it'll be a great thing. And Ryan's a good guy, but he's so pro Trey that it almost makes me a little uncomfortable. But I'm not anti-Trey. I'm pro-Trey. I just am telling you that I think he's going to be dealt, because I'm kind of reading what they're doing. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be good or not. I kind of think he's going to be good, but I think it's going to take a while. But I still get the sense they're going to trade him. But does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, that they will trade him this summer? I mean, Ian Rappaport said this weekend, or said today, and in August, they may pick up another quarterback and they may trade Trey Lance. Really? And how is that going to help Trey? How's that going to help the Niners? I'm now officially totally perplexed and baffled. I have no idea what their plan is. It doesn't seem like they're developing him. It doesn't seem like they want him. But I don't know. What's your take off the latest? Because I think Lynch said something about Christensen, the coach that worked with Mahomes, that we saw in the background when he was throwing with Mahomes, that they've worked together and there's some real developments there. Do you believe that, or is that?
No.
Where
You're
are
telling
we
me
on this?
Trey Lance has reworked his delivery while he's also been rehabbing an ankle injury that he had to have 2 surgeries to fix. Like, that would be an amazing achievement by Trey Lance. It's not fair to expect him to have reworked mechanics, I don't think. Everything that they are doing says they don't like Trey. Where do you think those Trey Lance trade rumors came from? They didn't come from the teams calling the 49ers. They came from the 49ers. That was the 49ers putting it out there for all the world. Call us. We're open to taking calls on Trey Lance, just like they announced at the owners' meetings when someone asked, "Are you going to trade Trey Lance?" And they said, "Well, we'll listen to anybody. We'll listen to offers on John and Kyle." And then what happened when someone said, "Are you going to trade Nick Bosa?" What did John say? He said, "Oh, that hotline's closed. Nope, never open." Right?
Right.
I thought you listen on everybody. So don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. They went out and got Sam Darnold on the very first day of legal tampering. They ran out. Who was breaking down Sam Darnold's freaking door to get him to come on the team?
And look what they've said about him since, too. I mean, I've never, after Shanahan's quotes, I had to go back and listen to what he was referring to. He just said the guy had the greatest skill set, as good a skill set as there is. And I'm like, wait a second, I could have swore he was talking about Sam Darnold. Let me go back on that.
Right.
He was talking about Sam Darnold. That was the most compelling moment of the offseason.
Why are they looking to overlook 56 games of crap from Sam Darnold because they liked him coming out in 2018, yet there's only 4 starts of Trey Lance and they decided that he's out and they're not going to look for any good in those 4 starts, which there was some good in those 4 starts. That's what doesn't make any sense to me. But you don't go and do that with Sam Darnold unless you're out on Trey. You drafted this kid 3rd overall. You gave up the world to go and get him. Why wouldn't he be the presumed backup while Brock Purdy is out if you liked him and if you believed everything that you've said about him, that the only thing that's changed is that he's healthy now, that you think he could have done exactly what Brock did when he got hurt? Then why would he ever split a single rep with Sam Darnold if that was really true?
And are they waiting for August because of cap reasons? Really? You're going to... I think it's such a bizarre thing. Here's the only thing I could figure on the Trey front. They want to commit to Brock, and they know that if Trey... And even, you know what? Rappaport, Rob, kind of said this today. And I have to go back and exactly listen to what he said. But he kind of referenced this. It's like he kind of suggested that Trey's not the ideal backup for Brock. And this was kind of my reasoning, which is they're going to move Trey because they're going to recommit to Brock Purdy. And last year was about clearing the decks for Trey. This year's about clearing the decks for Brock. And I think that means moving Trey on. And I don't know if it's the right move, but I do think it's coming. But it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable. And if you told me if Trey gets an honest competition against Sam Darnold in the preseason and in camp this summer, I find it really hard to believe that he could not beat Sam Darnold out for that job.
But they never cleared the deck for Trey Lance, Larry, because what did they do? Less than 2 weeks before the season started, they brought Jimmy back. So at
that point, I think they were worried, clearly, right, Rob? Weren't they worried about something? Yeah.
100%. But they never cleared the deck for him, which they absolutely should.
Well, they did for camp, though, because they could have brought in a Dalton or somebody like that, and they said, no, we're just going to go Sudfeld and the rookie. I mean, they really were really, really young and really, really they were the most inexperienced quarterback room in the entire league last summer.
But they still had to see Jimmy throwing every day they were out there. The specter of Jimmy Garoppolo was still there. And the fact that they brought him back, you can't move the new girlfriend into the apartment while the old girlfriend still lives there. It was the dumbest thing ever. And it was they chopped his legs out from under him in that locker room. The second they brought Jimmy Garoppolo back, Tim Kawakami wrote about it, how there were, quote, tensions rising after week 1's loss to Chicago. Hell, the Niners themselves told you when Trey went down. What did they say to Mike Silver? We can't say this, but you can. We're a better team now. What the hell was that? They never cleared the deck for him. So they always had Jimmy as their parachute. And so if now to say, well, they want to clear the deck for Brock, okay, but you didn't do that for this guy that you gave up an arm and a leg to get.
A buddy of mine's like, Krug, Trey Lance is like that European vacation or Hawaiian vacation that you keep saying you're going to go on, but you never go on.
Huh.
Or he goes, or it's kind of like that kitchen remodel you claim you're going to do, but you never actually do. Is it possible they liked the idea of Trey more than they actually were committed to the bumps in the road of the development of a young quarterback? They love the idea of a rookie quarterback. They love the idea of Trey Lance, but they really were never committed to losing. While he develops, it was always like, well, we'll just develop him while we're winning. Like I kind of think they were never really committed to ever, taking the bumps and the bruises that come with developing a young quarterback.
I think they thought they could avoid them. I think because remember the original plan, right? The original plan was Jimmy starts, but we'll get Trey in snippets, right? We'll get a red zone package in. We'll get him, we'll have a package of plays for him every week. I mean, hell, the first red zone possession of the year against the Lions, Trey comes in and throws the first touchdown pass of that season. That was the plan. I think they wanted to have training wheels on him so that at some point they would say, you know what? The Trey package is going to be a little bigger this week and a little bigger the week after that. And eventually he would just take over. They'd let go of the back of the bike and they'd be off and rolling with Trey Lance. But then the veterans on the team got all huffy and went to Kyle Shanahan and told him to stop doing that because they didn't like it. And what happened? All of a sudden, we didn't see any more of that. That stopped, right? That development, that program just ended. And so then they were left with, well, now this kid is raw. He doesn't have that development, and that changed everything.
By the way, that is spot on. And I actually have talked to people with the 49ers that won't be on the record, but have said that exact story. That when they got on the goal line and they went to the Trey package and Trey scored the touchdown and everybody said all the right things in the post game, the players, but that the veteran committee said, no. You're not doing this. You're not having Jimmy drive from the 10 to the 10 and then here comes Trey and he trots in for the touchdown. And no, we're not doing that. It'll split the team. It's not good. So that being said, Shanahan vacations in the offseason in Cabo with his own players. Is it possible that in their private moments they said to him, "Hey, Kyle, this trade thing ain't working"? Is it possible?
Shame on Kyle Shanahan. And you know what? If the veterans came to you and said that, you know what you say? Tough. I'm the coach. You'll catch passes from whoever the hell I throw in there. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Refuse to catch it? You'll like us when we win, okay? They like Jimmy because he won. They like Brock because he won. If Trey came in and they played and he won, guess what? They'd like Trey too. You don't let the veterans run the team. But Debo said it at Super Week. He said, Kyle doesn't make a decision until he talks to us. Well, you maybe care a little bit less about being liked, Kyle, and a little more about doing what's best for the team. And what's best for the team is developing this damn guy that you thought enough of to take third overall. Don't let George Kittle complain about the quarterback. I mean, damn, what the hell is that? It was working, by the way. The Trey package was working. They were scoring when he was in there.
I'll say this, being in the room at late in the year as they transitioned from one to another guy, when Brock started playing really well and I started asking Juszczyk and Kittle and some of the players about it, they would carve out a nice safe space. They'd be like, well, I'll say it again. I'll repeat to you what I've told everybody, because it's like they were Jimmy's buddies and they didn't want to be glowing about Brock, but they couldn't not acknowledge his incredible success, right? So Rob, they were like, you know what? I'll say this about Brock. I'll say what I've said, and they were real, measured, positive but measured about Brock, and it just kind of showed to me that. The quarterback position's a little bit different than the other positions in the room, and they weren't going to give Brock full endorsement because Jimmy's right there, but then at the same time they realized how good he was. So maybe there is something going on. What is your end game on Lance? How do you think it's going to go? Is he going to show up in camp and be great and improved and some people think as soon as he hits the ground he's going to play great, he's going to take off, and we're never even going to talk about Brock Purdy. It's going to be the Trey Lance show going forward, or are the Niners not going to allow that to happen and they're going to move him and commit to Brock and And I don't know what they're going to get in August. What, next 2024 draft picks, or I don't know. What's the end game on Trey Lance here?
I think if Brock Purdy can throw a football in June, on June 10th, that'll be 3 months since his surgery. And that's like the big day. That's when he can officially throw a football. If he can throw a football, I think the last image of Trey Lance in a 49er uniform we're going to see is him getting carted off in week 2 against Seattle. I really do. I think that I don't know why.
You think they'll trade him somewhere?
Yes, I think he will be traded.
What will they get?
They will get.
What's he worth? And who do you think wants him? The one team that I saw this weekend that I thought maybe they want him is Minnesota, because he's obviously from Minnesota. And then they took Jaron Hall from BYU, who's very Purdy-like. I don't know. That was the only one. Everybody else basically crossed themselves off the list by what they did this weekend, outside of the Commanders.
And don't forget, Mike Florio reported that the Niners were talking to the Vikings about a Trey Lance trade at the Combine in February, and that was before Brock Purdy even had surgery. So I think the Vikings are definitely a realistic possibility. I think they could probably swoop in and say, here's a 4th-round pick with maybe, or, a conditional pick in 2025, maybe, depending on if Lance plays and something like that. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It doesn't make any sense to me. We just saw a quarterback have a really good limited stretch in Jimmy Garoppolo in 2017. And then guess what? It turns out he wasn't the guy, yet for some reason they know on Brock, right? They're convicted. That's what John Lynch keeps saying, which, by the way, that word doesn't mean what you think it means, John. But
it's double meaning. It's a double meaning word, right? You can be convicted in your belief, and you can be convicted and sentenced to 15 years of hard time.
Conviction. We have conviction. That's the word you want, John. We have conviction that Brock Purdy is the guy. It drives me nuts. But yeah, I think that they're done with Trey, and I don't get it, but they think that they have seen enough.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Guerrera, Stats, has said it. It's not just Krug. I don't want to be the only bad guy here. You are credible. You have said it. And let me ask you this: you work with Florio. You probably know him better. I really can't stand Florio, but I'll tell you why I can't stand him, Rob. Because he stayed, I think, at the Marriott and went to the Radio Row, and so he walked through just like the feces and drugs and human feces and people laying around and homeless, and it's like an ugly 3-4 block thing. And then he wrote a total San Francisco sucks, it's crap, it's drugs, it's weed, it's this, and the Super Bowl should never come here again. And I just thought, Mike, come on, man. You got the wine country, you've got some beautiful places, and I don't know how much time you spent on here, but Northern California is beautiful. The Bay Area is fantastic. You can't just go from 3rd and Howard to 2nd and Mission and say, the city sucks. Now, believe me, I'm a native. I see the feces. I see the drugs and the needles. I see the overwhelming homeless problem and the problem of the city. But come on, man. You can't. I mean, you're telling me there's not a bad 4-block radius of New York and the Bronx or someplace? You're not going to find a bad 4-block radius on the south side of Chicago? There's not a 4-bad-block radius in D.C., Philly, Boston? Come on. What are we talking about here? I didn't like the way he kind of ripped on SF publicly on a national platform. But you know him and you've worked around him. Forget my deal with him and his San Francisco crap. That's just my own issue. How credible is Mike Florio? And I don't know his background that much, Rob. Give us something on him.
I trust Mike Florio more than any other insider in the NFL. 100%,
really?
Without question. I think that he's the least biased of any of them out there. Mike doesn't care about, he doesn't do any favors to anybody, right? Like, we've seen Adam Schefter put out stuff about, the whole Mr. Editor thing, and he'll throw in a line of this was negotiated by this agent. Mike doesn't play that game. He doesn't do that. He doesn't break a ton of news because that's not really his thing. He's more of a put his spin and tell you why something is important or why something is BS. But when he has a story and he reports rumors, I would absolutely trust it 1,000%.
And has he thrown Cousins into this deal with Lance and the Vikings, or is it just the Vikings have interest in Lance?
So first,
do you see Cousins coming here or no?
first Mike reported that they talked about Cousins, and then the news about Lance trade talks came out. Then he said they actually talked about Lance, but he wasn't sure if it was like a Lance for Cousins trade. He didn't go that far to connect those dots. But let's be honest, Kyle, you never forget your first love, right? And Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent after this season. And we know that Kyle loves him some Kirk. Let's say they trade Trey Lance. And then let's say if Brock Purdy either struggles or misses the entire season, because we don't necessarily know when he's going to be back, and Kirk is out there and it doesn't cost any draft picks to get him. We know that was the plan. They didn't scout Patrick Mahomes because they were going to sign Kirk Cousins. So what will have changed with Kirk that Kyle would suddenly not want to sign him if he was a free agent?
Yeah, I mean, I've done 3 different interviews with Kirk, and he's a great guy. I like him a lot, but he doesn't win big games.
He's a human sweater vest.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good quarterback. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't think he's better than. I don't know if he's better than Brock Purdy. And I know he's a hell of a lot more expensive, and he's getting close to 35. I think he's like 33, something like that. But Cousins, I mean, I don't know. Show me the big game that Cousins won, and then I'll change my mind. I can't picture that. I'm hoping they don't go that direction. Let me get some super chats, and then we're only going to go 10 more minutes because I can't take too much more of your time. But dude, you're fucking awesome. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. I feel like we've been talking for 25 minutes. That's how good this is. Glass Half Full guy says, when do veterans start signing since the draft is over or after the draft? Does the fact that Trey wasn't traded bode well for him here and getting a real shot? Well, we've discussed that part. But as far as when veterans can sign, if the Niners wanted to sign, Leonard Floyd or Ngakwe or one of these edge rushers, Jadeveon Clowney is out there. I mentioned Rock Ya-Sin, the corner from the Raiders. If they wanted to sign a veteran free agent, they can sign right now, can't they?
They could sign now, and if you wait till Monday, he doesn't count against the compensatory pick formula. So you're going to see some guys sign this week.
Ah, there you go. And the Niners are big on that, by the way. They play that like a fiddle, and they're very disciplined in how they go about things when it comes to free agency. They're very cognizant of that formula, and that's why they've benefited greatly from it. 2.0 says, I could only keep thinking about how much we continue to pay for the Trey pick. That one win versus the Texans is the most expensive win of all time. Yeah, well.
It's all paid off now, though. The credit card is paid. All those picks have been used and spent, and it's free and clear.
Yeah, and he did look good in that second half against the Texans. I will say that. I loved the explosive movement. I loved what I saw in the second half of that game. People forget, that was the equivalent of a playoff game, folks. If they lost that game, they were out, and he won that game. So, I mean, that's not like nothing. Daryl says, come on, guys. You guys follow the Niners. Those other guys talk about all the teams in the NFL. You can't take what they say as fact. They're looking for clicks. Okay, but you can make that argument, but I mean, their credibility is their job, and so their credibility matters to them. And I'll put Ian Rappaport. Are you talking about Rappaport? I'm sure. I'll put his credibility up there. He's not always right, but he's credible. I believe, and he's not so powerful or so egotistical that he's going forward on some national platform repeatedly just because he's got a wild hair up his ass. Somebody told him something, and he's repeating it. These guys are not the world's smartest guys. They repeat what other people tell them.
And this is what I don't like about that is no one ever says that when they say anything good about the team, right? No one ever, if he said, oh, the Niners are going to trade a 7th-round pick for Odell Beckham, nobody says, these guys don't know what they're talking about. It's only the bad stuff where you hand wave it away.
Right. 49er George 365. Larry and Rob, you guys absolutely killed it. We appreciate you guys so much for helping us think through what the 49er brass may be thinking. Thank you, 49er George. This is our first go around, and this has been really good. Okay, wait, let me scoot down here. There's a bunch more I got to get to before I want to ask you about one other thing before we jet here. Ryan Hensley's in the house.
Hey, Ryan.
Don't be uncomfortable. Ryan's got. Is that a fork and a knife?
Yes, it is.
God damn it, Ryan!
I'm to the French Laundry.
When I hear that there's people that are going, that are without food, I'm now picturing you. I'm wondering if you need this food. No, I'm just joking, brother. And I'll be on tomorrow. And yes, we'll be dining. And yes, I'll be paying. And yes, you were right. And yes, I was wrong. But Trey could still be traded, and Brock could be committed to. but I guess my timeline was off. 2.0 said, I was 100% on board with Trey trade until they didn't get a quarterback. It would make more sense for a rookie to be a practice squad guy, not Sam or Trey. So I have to get another quarterback first or get one back in a deal. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why I mentioned Jaron Hall with the Vikings. Randall Riley says, what will you say when Trey's on the roster in number 2?
I would say great.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing on that. I just wonder, do the Niners want the circus of the day-to-day? It should be Brock. It should be Sam. It should be Trey. It should be Brock. It should be Sam. It should be Trey. Because the one thing about it is if you have a clear delineation, then at least you can go, hey, man, there's no debate. We got the guy. And then this guy's number 2. And if you want to have a 2-3 debate, go for it. But the one, most coaches don't want that daily, who's ahead, who's behind, what happened today, did anything change? That's just, I don't know. I get the sense they're going to try to clear the deck more for Brock. Maybe I'm wrong. Green Glass Full says some have made a cult of being defensive over Trey. It is kind of true. It's like you can say that, I threw out the trade and people have accused me of going for clicks, but I actually, anybody who knows me knows, I honestly believed it. I really believed it. I thought it was going to happen. I would never do that for clicks. But I do get the sense that there are people kind of defending, kind of going, hey, look at the traction. All right, PIVC. Sam hasn't played with a talented team that all knew the playbook with a good coach since high school. Trey versus Sam won't even be close. Sam wins that competition with one arm, just like Jimmy did, literally. How could you possibly say that? How could you possibly say that a guy? It's like, okay, Trey's like the 8th grader who's going to college, and you're comparing him to like a guy in my fraternity who has like a C- average and shows up at 35% of his classes and is in his 7th year at Sac State. And you're comparing those two students. One guy's a 8th grader in college, and the other guy has been in college for 6 years and can only find his way to a 3-foot bong. You know what I mean? It's like, seriously? I mean, Sam Darnold, based on what we've seen at SC and with the Jets and with the Panthers, is not a good quarterback and turns the ball over and has, to me, and I don't know everything, but all I see with Sam Darnold, Rob, is I see a guy who from when he identifies where he's going with the football to the ball coming off his fingertips, it's longer than the average quarterback. So he's telegraphing where he's going, and his release is so slow and so deliberate that I really believe that part of his issue is that guys break on his ball, and that's why he's turned it over. He's turned it over his whole career. At SC, in the pros, he's got an elongated delivery. He's got a good arm, maybe even above average arm, but that elongated delivery, these guys watch cut-up films, and when they study you, and if you could take your left hand off the ball and they know that's when they break. So I personally think that unless they can clean up his mechanics, he's going to continue to throw picks.
When he was with the Jets, it was Adam Gase's fault. Then he got to the Panthers, and all of a sudden it's somebody else's fault. Baker Mayfield took his job with the Panthers. Like, why? What are we waiting for with Sam Darnold? When is this good quarterback going to show up? He's played 56 games. He has 90 combined interceptions or fumbles in those games. 90! That's basically 2 a game. And not all those games are starts, by the way. So even when he comes in relief, he still finds time to put the ball on the ground or throw it to the other team. The guy can't play. And I don't know why we can't just admit this. If he was a 4th-round pick, he wouldn't even be in the league anymore. But because he was a 1st-round pick, people say, well, he's got some talent there. It's dumb. It's dumb.
Shanahan has talked him up, too. It's not just, it's not like, hey, he's got a couple fans. The head coach of the team talked him up in a huge way, and he's not complimenting Trey Lance. That's the other thing that nobody ever brings up, that this bad journeyman, failed number 1 pick, who's had a ton of time to play, is being talked up by the head coach, but the guy that he just drafted, who's never played at all, relatively, He doesn't throw any of those compliments. PIVC says, cannot see the 49ers trading Trey without getting a quarterback back in the deal unless they can find a free agent quarterback they like for the practice squad. They need more than 2 quarterbacks. 2.0 says, love the Jaron Hall idea in the swap with the Vikings. Let's effing go. All right, let's get to how you and I actually got together on this. I did a live stream the other day with Jack Hammer, and in that live stream, I was trying to pat Jack Hammer on the back and say, way to go, Jack. But at the same time, I've got beef with people who are telling me that I'm uninformed when I know I'm informed. And I know that I spend the time to be informed, and I care a lot about being informed. So when people tell me that I'm uninformed, that bothers me. And then when people tell me I'm uninformed and they've never been in the room before, they've never talked to any of the players, coaches, executives, or owners, that makes me incensed. So I wasn't referring to you, but in general, I basically spoke out and I said there's a distinction in my mind between you're covering the story in first person as opposed to people who are covering it through us, through people's social media or through the Niners' social media. And to me, there's a distinction. Now, a distinction is there's a difference. I didn't say this is better. I implied that one was better, but to me, all I was trying to say is there's a distinction. And in the process of saying this, I hurt a lot of people who I really care about, people like Jesse, people, basically anybody, Breezy, Chapman, Vish, people who are literally in other markets who aren't here, but still I've got great respect for their content, their opinion, and I would listen to their opinion about the Niners as much as any of the people that are there. So you then pushed back and said, hey, look, I'd love to talk to you about this. And I said, absolutely. And then I replied to you, and then we kind of got back and forth, and I said, then why don't you come on the show? And I intended in this show to bring this up. I didn't think it would necessarily be draft day, but it's just the way it worked. We've discussed the draft and Trey and this and that. I just wanted to, apologize and say, hey, look, I'm not pushing back on you, Rob, and saying your content is not good. Heck, you've got as good a credentials to cover the NFL as anybody in that room, myself included. So why would I, feel like I'm better than anybody? And anybody who knows me knows that I don't walk around thinking I'm better than anybody. I'm not the country club guy. I'm very much a product of the the streets, if you will. I mean, I'm not saying I'm gone through the school of hard knocks. I've had some advantages in life, but I'm just saying I'm not one of these guys that everybody. My uncle is not the owner of the Niners, and then I'm suddenly, hey, here I am. I have no connection to the business. I worked my way up. I spent 25 years making connections, making relationships, covering the team, doing the pregame show, doing the postgame show, spending 6-7 hours preparing, writing notes to death, making extra phone calls. I've got scout friends, coaching friends, personnel friends, film friends. I'm, as Dusty Gold said, Larry's not fucking lazy. No, but I spend a lot of time doing this, and it just bugs me. And I had a couple people who I've never heard of before, basically taking me out back, doing an entire live stream on my Trey Lance comment while using my content to create, their own clicks and their own revenue on their own channel. And then crapping on me and not even asking me anything about it. Didn't invite me on. Didn't say, hey, where's your source? Why do you think what you think? Nothing like that. I'm just going to crap on this guy and say he's uninformed while I'm literally never talked to a player, a coach, or executive one time. So I pushed back on that. It wasn't intended for you. It wasn't intended for nobody, though. It was intended for people and I in painting with a broad brush, I definitely overstepped my bounds, and I just wanted to apologize. That's why I wanted to have you on, and also just say that it was nothing to. I was not in any way trying to discredit Vish, yourself, Jesse. I've reached out to Vish; he knows me. I've reached out to Jesse. We're cool. But I don't know you, and you push back, and I wanted to come, face to face, and just tell you where I'm coming from. what's going through my mind and where I was at, and give you a chance to weigh in with anything you wanted to say about it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I think that we should lay all our cards on the table, because I think the people that you're talking about are people that are part of my team at Gold Standard. I think you're talking about
who's on your team.
Steph Sanchez and Jason Ponte are the people I think that you're talking about. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. But is that who we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
That's who we're talking about. And if you're going to put something out there and say, like, discredit somebody and say that they don't know what they're talking about. I was literally called uninformed. I'm as informed as almost any person there is. I mean, if you don't believe that, go call John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan or 70 of the players have been on the team in the last decade and ask them, what do you know about Larry Krueger? And what they're going to say is, you know what, that guy hustles. That guy does his homework. That guy tries to be right. That guy's not here for clicks. That guy's not. And to just say, hey, you're uninformed, consider the source and bash me. And it was especially weak because at least I've got the guts to say it. They didn't have the guts to actually just say it. If you're going to call somebody out, call somebody out. But don't call somebody out in some passive-aggressive way and not say their name. I mean, and if you want to debate it, debate it. But if you want to have your own take, have your own take. But to just sit there and say somebody who has a take, well, we're not going to have a take. We're just going to crush the person who has a take and say that they're not informed when every aspect of my take was accurate except the timeline. I literally said, Brock's going to be recommitted to, they're going to trade Trey, and I think it's going to happen by the draft. It didn't happen by the draft, and so I'll pay off my bet. But we're both in agreement that we think it's going to happen. And at the time, Brock and Trey, in a lot of people's minds, were literally head. You know, they were neck and neck. They were going to compete for this job. Well, suddenly they're not, and it's all about Trey. It's all about Brock. So all I was doing was giving my opinion. All I'm going to say is, if you want to disagree with my opinion, disagree with my opinion. But don't disagree with my opinion by saying I'm uninformed and not name me, and then just put this out in a video on Twitter and reference me, but basically not ever have the balls to say, hey, I'm talking about this person who said this. And at least if you're going to make that kind of a direct attack, invite me on the show. Let me at least speak to you and say, hey, you know what? This is what I was thinking. Instead, just kind of backhand me. That's not right. I would never do that to anybody.
So a couple of things. First, I'm the one that made the Twitter video clip. Now, they said it they disagreed with you in the show. I'm the one that cut that clip for Twitter. I thought that was the most interesting part of the show. You guys disagree, and that's fine. And if I would love for you to come on and for everybody to have a conversation. But I will say you are wrong on one thing, and that is they do talk to the team. They were at the combine. They were at the Senior Bowl. They do go to practice, to training camp. So it's not like they are never there. I just want to point that out because they are there sometimes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I've personally never seen either of them ever. And I was in the locker room for every media deal from training camp on, but that's not to say they weren't there because I don't know them. So maybe they were there and I just didn't recognize them.
But it sounds like you guys need to have a conversation. I think, like you disagree. You didn't like how they called you out. I think it would be. I mean, call me. No, I'm fine with being called out. I've been 30 years on the radio. I've been called out by all kinds of freaking people. If you're going to call somebody out, call somebody out. Would you agree? You want them to say you wanted to say, hey, we disagree with Larry Krueger. Yeah. Or just instead of just, I mean, and then what? Because now you're saying I'm broadcasting from my basement. I mean, come on. Everybody's broadcasting from some home studio. What's the difference? Whether I'm in my living room, it's just like it's weak. It's weak and unaccountable to be. I'm calling somebody out, but I'm not naming them. That's sorority house garbage. That's what that is. That's not professional. That's not professional at all. Now, if you want to take offense to my report, fine. But at the same time, you're saying it's not credible. You're debating it on your own platform for money and using it as the launch point for your show, what you're profiting from. Do you see the contradiction there? Do you see the problem that I'm having there? Well, I think they were talking about Trey Lance getting traded and whether or not he was going to get traded, and they mentioned that they disagreed with you. But I mean,
No, they didn't. They didn't say that. They just mentioned that they said that I was uninformed. She said I was uninformed. I've been hosting the pregame show for almost 15 years. I know the players on a first-name basis. I spend a ton of time in the facility. You may not like me, but you can't say I'm uninformed. That's not accurate. And that's an attack. And there's no reason for that. I have a phone number. I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm really accessible. I'm pretty friendly. I don't need everybody to kiss my ass, but I also don't want people just throwing me out there as some, let's all be mad at this guy, but let's never actually ask him what his point is. We'll just mention it, reference it, not name him, and then we'll crap on him on our way out the door. So I would never do that. I would never do that to them.
Well, you kind of crapped on him a little bit.
No, I'm telling you because it's your platform that who I was talking about. But right. All I said was, to me, there's a distinction between covering the story. If you're a war correspondent and you're in Iraq, that's a whole lot different than I'm covering the war from people's tweets from Iraq. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying. I know, but I mean, I'm saying first person accounts. First person accounts. I'm not telling you what the Niners tweeted out about training camp. I'm standing on the sideline getting a sunburn, telling you what I think based on years of scouting and years of being a media person watching it.
Yeah, and
I'm not losing sleep over it, but that's why I push back, and then now you push back on me, and that's why we're here to discuss this. And to me, it's cathartic. I'm getting it off my shoulders because I'm walking around going, who are these people, and why are they ripping me? And why are they using my rumor, if you want to call it that, if they want to make me own it, why are they using it to get clicks on their show, ripping me and not inviting me on and not even having the audacity to mention? I mean, let's just say this. If this were a college course, it's called a bibliography. Okay? You have to cite your sources. That's all. I'm not a journalist. I'm an editorialist. I don't know. You might be a journalist, but if you are a journalist and you live by any kind of journalistic code, cite your sources, or don't bring it up.
Right. I think everybody needs to have a conversation, and you guys can hash that out. And I think that would be a good thing for everybody involved. Then everybody.
Do you at least understand where I'm coming from? That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I'm not saying that you have to agree with me, but do you understand where I'm coming from?
I'm of the belief that I call everybody out. That's how I roll. Like, I call out the 49ers press corps. I've called them all out. I have a rule that I don't say anything on the air that I wouldn't say to somebody's face, because I think that's just my personal thing. And so I understand you saying, hey, if you're going to use my name, I could say that I would agree with that. But I think that where I was pushing back on you is they are there. It's not like they're never there. They do go to training camp.
That's
Steph
fair.
Was talking to John Lynch at the combine. So was Jason. They were both there. So that was where I was pushing back.
That's fair.
All I'm saying.
That's fair. You're right. Because in pushing back on them and being outraged, being called uninformed, as somebody who scouted football players in the CFL, the NFL, who's worked on KMBR for 25 years, worked on the game for the last few years, who did a pregame show to London last year, who was in the locker room for every training camp practice, every mini camp. It's just, when I see people call me uninformed, it's like, I'd rather you say something worse about me than call me uninformed. Because to me, being informed is my goal. To me, one of the worst things you can say to me is you're uninformed. That's all. All right. Do we flesh that out? I mean, I'll take your word for it. Hey, Rob, you seem like a good guy. If they work for you, they're probably good people. Right, I'm not gonna. I don't know them, and I'm not. I've never had any beef with either of them before, and I don't really have anything. I've never heard anybody else have any beef with them before. I just didn't like the fact that It's like either cite your source, so at least people. And then I also had I got a lot of pushback. I mean, I don't know if they probably got a lot of traction on that thing, and I got a lot of pushback going, dude, they're talking about you, and I'm like, well, okay. And then the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, yeah, they are calling me uninformed, and that is galling because I'm a lot of things, but I'm not uninformed. We get this one. Larry, you're just mad because you were wrong. You were uninformed. You're a casual.
No, see, there's a difference between being wrong and uninformed. I'm wrong all the time. We're all wrong at different points. Like, so that you can't say that. Nobody bats 1,000.
Yeah. There you go. And I hope since you know them, tell them. I mean, I aired this with you in this, but I got no beef with Jason or with Steph. I got no beef, but I don't like being called uninformed when, Jesus, my single purpose to drive down there and get all this information and relay it through this channel, so on and so forth, is to be informed and then try to help other people, Niner fans, be informed. So my bad if I'm getting too up in my feelings, chat. Maybe it's on me. Rob, awesome live. Promote anything you want. I mean, what do you got going? Obviously, the draft just happened. Yeah. You cited a lot of the stuff from the presser. If I go to your channel this week, what kind of content am I getting? What are you guys putting out this week?
So what we do with the Gold Standard Podcast Network is we do 49ers in 5 every weekday, which is just a 5-minute news show in the morning, updates you on everything you need to know about the team. And then you'll get a long-form show in the afternoon. We have different hosts every single day of the week. Jason and Steph are on Tuesdays. I host a show every other day. Besides that, you mentioned it before with Vish, Grant Cohn, Levin Black, Michelle Maggi, a bunch of people. And, we go year-round. We don't stop, obviously, because there's always news with the 49ers. And so you'll always get everything going on with the team.
It is amazing what the Niners are compared to the rest of sports. The Giants are in season right now. Rob, if we tried to talk Giants right now, there'd be, instead of 530 people hanging, there'd be like 35 people going, damn that Kapler. It's like, even in the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors actually do great in the playoffs. Even so, the Niner draft totally crushed the Warriors. Totally crushed the NBA. The NFL is a absolute force of nature, and anybody who's doing a live stream of any kind and they're living doing it, you got to talk NFL. You got to talk NFL.
Wait till the schedule comes out next month. It's going to dominate the news story. We already know who the teams are playing, and it's still going to dominate the news story, and it's still going to be the most interesting thing that happens.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Though I will say this, the most loathsome show of the year is tuning into ESPN going, all right, hey, it's week 6 and the Ravens are going to the Steelers. Give me your thoughts. What? I don't know who's healthy. I don't know who's hurt. I don't know who played the week before. I don't know how that's a useless exercise. The old, let's analyze the schedule. All right, brother. Hey, great stuff. I'd love to have you back. And I'd gladly go on with Jason and Steph or you anytime and chop it up and talk Niners, and we'll leave the past in the past. But I appreciate you coming on tonight and appreciate the knowledge and good luck with the channel. And if there's anything we can do for you, let me know. I would love to help out.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good night.
You too.
There you go. Rob Stats Guerrera. All right. There you go. Good stuff. Hope all you guys enjoyed the conversation. We got people in the chat. Some people are mad. Flav says, when people can't think of counter arguments, they have to go low and try to silence you other ways. I didn't want to deal with the Trey cult, but after that inspiring speech, I'm back. Larry for president. It doesn't matter the size of the channel. I don't care about the size of the channel. Just don't call me uninformed. Or if you want to call me uninformed, have me on and say, hey, you know what? I think you're uninformed. And this is why. And then we'll talk. We'll have it out. That's really it. And I do care. One thing I will say, all you have in this biz is your credibility. That's all you got. So if you question my credibility, now we got beef. We got beef because now you're going at me in a way where you're trying to take food off my family's plate, and now we're going to fight. And I don't want to fight, but I will. NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC says, Larry, you're a pro. Don't worry yourself with scrubs. Oh, they're not scrubs. But thanks for the support. I do appreciate that. Hey, look, I've got more followers on this channel than some. I have less followers or less subscribers on this channel than others. So I'm just in the middle like everybody else, That's it. That's it. I don't think I'm better than anybody, but if you notice me, I don't go and start, I've got a bunch of different people with a lot of opinions. I don't go and discredit anybody. And if I'm going to discredit them, I'm going to discredit them to their face on the show. And we'll go at it right then and there. That's it. G. Martinez. I like spicy, Larry. I don't know, spicy. Gotcha. Fight. Why is it that when we go to when we go to games, it's like there's something about fighting that it does. It's like you see a fight, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're at a baseball game. There's a fight in the city. Oh, I'm watching Kings Warriors at that game 4 party they had in Sacramento, the watch party. Warrior fans and Kings fans just throwing hands. I mean, come on, people. What are we doing? You're gonna have somebody knock you out, hit your head, be concussed, maybe start bleeding from the head, fracture your skull, leave your wife without a husband, leave your kids without a father because of fucking Keegan Murray? You got to be kidding me. I mean, seriously. But people do. People brawl it out. People fight it out all the time. 49er George, 365. A C note? Damn. 49er George, he rolls fat like that. Damn. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Dusty Gold. Larry, you got Bay Area cred. Thank you. Maximiliano. Larry, you rule. If you had said you sucked, I don't think I probably would have put that up there. I'm just being honest. MF. Larry, quick thoughts on the Mexico game. I love watching the Giants in Mexico. Okay, can I just make one quick baseball point and hopefully not lose the entire audience? Please, if you're a Niner fan, stomach with this one baseball point. I think baseball, like the Giants are not a great team. Tonight's game, they lost, right? And I don't know if anybody watched it. They lose to the Padres 16-11, 30 hits, 17 for the Pods, 13 for the Giants. They're playing in Mexico City. Mexico City is like, what's the altitude of Mexico City? Isn't it like 7,800 feet or something? I mean, it's way up there. It's way higher than Denver. So the ball soars at Coors. It just, every ball in the air went out. It was incredible. But I'll just say this. Forget that for a second because that's an aberration and, you're playing a baseball game at 7,000 or 8,000 feet or whatever it is. You're going to have a lot of scoring. But I like Giants baseball when the ball is flying. I don't care who wins or who loses. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. If I got to sit there and watch a baseball game, I don't want to watch 1-0. I know, believe me, I'm a baseball fan. I've seen lots of very exciting 1-0 games, and I can hear all kinds of people. It's not about the score, it's about the tempo and this and the action, and you don't appreciate the nuances. No, get out of here. I appreciate the nuances. I like to see offense. I like to see bodies moving. I like to see doubles, triples, home runs, offense. I don't even mind. Tonight, I was a wildly entertaining game. It really was. It was a very entertaining game. 30 hits, 27 runs. Now, I don't know if I want to see that every day. You know what I'm saying? But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I like seeing offense. I want to see offense. Giants, if you're listening, build a lineup that has good offense. I liked the team in 2000 with Bonds and Burks and Kent and JT and Aurelia and, Bill Miller. They had offense. I like offense. I can appreciate nuance, but are we really seeing nuance in these low-scoring Giants games, or are we seeing offensive futility? We're seeing offensive futility. I like offense. Offense is entertaining. Archer says Larry's got Bay Area street credibility for days. Calling him uninformed is the dumbest thing you can possibly say. That was weak. And I'll leave the names out. That was weak. Tom, Larry just wants to be a big teddy bear in the end. Well, no, I'll just say this. Well, I have no problem fighting. You want to fight? We'll fight. But life's too short. I got 4 kids and a wife and a mortgage, and I love my wife and I love my kids, and I love doing this, and I love these Niner content creators. I promise you, I do. I digest it all. I watch them all, and I'm not. And that's the other thing that kind of chaps me. I've retweeted. I don't think Jason, but I've retweeted Steph many, many times. She has had a lot of revelations about different people the Niners are meeting with, and I know I've retweeted those things. And I'm not sitting there going, I'm not going to give. Some people, you know what they do? They read your little, hey, the Niners met with this person, and then they put it out themselves like they're breaking it. Those people are the frauds. I'm willing to share, man. If you have it and I see it, I don't even care if you were first to have it. If I read it from your publication, your website, your whatever, I'm crediting you. I'm retweeting you. So, there you go. Jerry, Melody? Larry, your shows are riveting. Riveting? I'm not sure about riveting. Did someone say 13,000 feet? Is that possible? No. It's not 13,000 feet. Car God says 8,000 feet. Daryl Granville. Hi, what do you think about the undrafted free agent running back Marshall? I need a name. I need a first name on that. Let me double check that. Let me go to, now where's that on? Is that Niners Nation? Is that 49er Web Zone? Who had that one? Normally I'm just all over the undrafted free agent tracker, but I had to make dinner tonight. My kid was playing baseball tonight. I put together a bunch of videos on Jalen Graham, Ronnie Bell, Braden Ellis, D. Winters, Robert Beal. I mean, I was doing a lot today, so I haven't gotten. Tonight is going to be great. When I'm done with this, I'm going to sit down and watch all these undrafted guys probably for at least 3 hours. So if you want to call me at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll be up. I'm looking for this guy you're asking about. I'll say this. I've seen the Oregon State fullback, linebacker Jack Coletto. That's interesting. He's an interesting guy for sure. The Texas defensive back, Deshaun Jameson. I've seen him play a little bit. I'm not. Oh, here. No, are you talking about Kalen Laybourne from Marshall? No, he's not Is that who you're talking about? Minnesota inside linebacker Mariano Sori Marin is signing with the Niners. Jadakis Bonds. I've actually heard a couple people say that they like him from Hampton. I've got to go check. This is what's so exciting about a night like tonight. The Niners do such a good job in the undrafted class that you literally got to go check these guys all out. So, Daryl, I don't know jack about Marshall because I don't even know what his first name is. But if you give me 24 hours, I'll probably be doing a video on him. And I won't be doing a video on him going, I've known this guy forever. No, I'll be doing a video on him saying, I just watched him, I studied him, and this is what I think of him. Man. All right. We've got some people in the chat. Larry's love for Purdy really threw him off his game. I do think Brock's a hell of a guy. I will say that. I do. Archer says, Larry, do you like offense? Yes, I do like offense. Thank you. Kirk. Larry, thank you, Larry. You're the GOAT. I got the breath of a goat right now. Elias Gray. Elias? If I butchered that, I'm sorry. It says, real talk. Your viewers benefit when your content is analysis and not arguing with randos. They don't want you to succeed. People who do this sort of thing do. All right. Flav. Larry, you're from that old school blue collar, outwork you era. I think the other people who are mostly younger don't like how hard you work. It scares them. Keep doing your thing. It's awesome. I don't think that's the case. I'm working hard. Oh no. No. I just think that I'll be honest. Can I give you my honest assessment? My honest assessment is, and this is why I'm kind of mad at myself for getting this worked up about it, is that they didn't do anything that anybody else wouldn't do. They knew that the story was Lance. They know that the story was interesting, and that they see the inconsistencies. I guarantee. I don't even know Steph or Jason, but I guarantee you they see the same inconsistencies with the Niner messaging on Trey. But they don't know where it's going either, and they know that maybe there's something there, and I don't know. Maybe they disagreed with my take, but just cite your sources. Cite your sources, and if you're going to be critical and say somebody's uninformed, invite them on, and then have it out, and I'll go on, and I'll still go on, and we can talk about who's informed. MF, Larry, is Greg Cosell going to evaluate the Niners draft class? I bet she is. Greg, I think, does his own draft guide. I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but he used to do it. And I feel bad because I ordered his draft guide. It never came. It was like $17. I didn't have the nerve. And I told him, I said, hey, I ordered your draft guide. And then I just didn't have the nerve to tell him, hey, Greg, whoever's putting it out. I sent him the check, and they never sent me the draft guide. I always talking to him on the air, so I didn't want to make it, I don't want to put that out on the air necessarily. But it was a couple years ago now. But I bet you it was good, because Greg has sent me his notes before, and they're extensive. MF says, Larry, do you have beef with FP Santangelo after disagreeing with him about the Giants' depth? Oh, nah. FP and I go way back. He played for the Giants in '99. I used to go up to him and bum Copenhagen off him back in the days when I used to chew, which now seems almost like a different life ago. I'd be like, bro, you got an extra? Can I take a pinch out of your can? He's like, oh man, go for it. FP and I are very, very cool, and his kid was my producer at KMBR for a while, and FP's a good guy. And also you got to understand everybody's deal. I mean, FP has gone through some ups and downs. I mean, FP is now back here in his home, and he'd love to be, on the Giants broadcast. I mean, he's trying to be positive. I understand. I understood that, but we just disagreed. He said they have great depth and position players, and I was just like, nah, I don't think so. But no, beef, no, come on, absolutely not. And if I did have beef with him, I would literally pick up the phone and be like, bro, this is the issue. And we're cool like that. He would be like, Krug, let me know how you feel. And then he would tell me what was up. Mac Dre says, Larry, your takes on Lance not being moved. What's your take on Lance not being moved like you predicted all off season? I think we just went into it. I mean, Mac Dre, I hope you heard the beginning of it with Rob. I thought Rob and I had kind of an interesting back and forth discussion about it. I think we're both in the same kind of spot. It's just weird. The whole thing's weird. Now, maybe they're going to go forward with him, but all the indications are that they're going to trade him at some point. But it wasn't this weekend. And I predicted it would be by this weekend because I saw this weekend as a deadline. But maybe that's not their deadline. But right today, when I was about to say, you know what? I'm going to listen to what Lynch and Shanahan have to say, and maybe they're going to keep him. Maybe they're going to let these guys battle it out. And then what do we get again today in the middle of the draft? Ian Rappaport works for the NFL Network, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down. I don't know how many times he said it, but definitely restating it that Trey, in his mind, is still going to be traded. Today's report was really interesting because it made it seem like it was a smart move. I don't know. I don't know. None of this makes sense. That's all I'll say. The Trey thing doesn't make sense. I scouted football players. I think I know a little bit about football when I watch. And you know what? I didn't see a guy that was like, this guy's never going to be good. I saw a guy who's raw. I saw a guy who's one-speeded, throws everything super hard. I saw a guy that needs refinement. I saw a guy that needs reps. But there's also some really advanced things about Trey that nobody ever talks about. his play fakes are genius. I haven't seen a young quarterback carry out play fakes with shoulder dips, and I mean he's very advanced under center in the play action game, in the ball handling aspect of it. Very advanced. So you can say he played 1 year since high school and all that, and it's all true, but he's very advanced in that area. But he's also very one-speeded, and things are coming out hot. And he did have a 10% drop ratio from his receivers, which is, I think, almost one of the highest ratios in the league. Granted, small sample size. And that has to be, nobody who criticizes should ever criticize without at least referencing small sample size, because that's what we're talking about. And if you've ever taken a stats class or a class on polling, that means everything. Daryl Granville, thanks joining your channel now. You're real, brother. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate you. Just for the hell of it, gotcha. Will Clark. That's probably an answer to something. He just out of nowhere, just Will Clark? Yes, Will Clark. All right. We've got 25 starred chats. Those are chats that I starred throughout the 2 hour and 5 minute extravaganza. Look at Daryl. Daryl Granville has become a new YouTube member of mine. Oh, look at that. By the way, Daryl, I give all my new members a little clap. Little clap. Just my way of saying I appreciate you. So yeah, anybody who's a member. Oh, by the way, we are closing in on 17,000. Look at this. We got another member in the house. Jerry Milady has become a YouTube member. Jerry, appreciate you, brother. My wife's going to come out here. What the hell are you clapping about? Okay, let me go to my YouTube studio. I know we're closing in on 17,000 subs. 17,000 subs. Yeah, we are 39 away. So if you're one of the near 500 people hanging on at 2 hours and 6 minutes of this live stream, that means, we usually probably get 300, 350, somewhere in there for some of these. We got 150 people that are not normally here. So if you could hit like, that helps other people find the show, and obviously helps the show grow by hitting like. If you hit subscribe, you'll just get a alert on your phone every time we go live. We go live about 5 to 7 times a week, and then I put out videos 3, 4, 5 a day in addition. But yeah, we are at 16,961. So we're closing in. We're closing in on 17,000. So if you're in the chat and you've yet to hit subscribe, please hit subscribe. That would really help out the channel quite a bit. If you hit like, it helps people find us. If you hit subscribe, you hit join, you'll get a nice little alert every time we go live. And then you can decide for yourself, yeah, I want to listen to that guy. He's real. Or you know what? If that guy gives me one more goddamn Trey Lance rumor, I'm going to flip my lid. I understand, because I've been heavy Trey Lance. Heavy Trey Lance. Twisted Clown says for the super chat, says, let's hope she thinks you're clapping. Yeah, exactly. Oh, nice. That is wrong. I'm out here in my studio banging. My wife comes out. Archor says, Larry, you should go into spicy mode more. Look at these new subscriptions and huge super chats. No, I don't need to go spicy more. I just want to talk Niners. I just want to talk football. I don't want to have beef, but I'm not afraid of beef. And if there's very few things, I said it already. There's very few things that get me pissed off. One of them is to say that I'm uninformed. I spend a lot of time to be informed. I don't know. I would say this. Go ask Tim Ryan. Say, hey, Larry Krueger, is he informed or is he uninformed? And listen to what Tim Ryan says. He's a straight shooter. He does not tell lies. He will tell you the truth. Or even better than that, go ask anybody that knows me. Go ask Guru. Go ask Steiny. Go ask Willard. Go ask Lund. Go ask Tommy T. Go ask those guys. Go ask Matt Barrows. Go ask Grant Cohn. Is Larry Krueger informed or is Larry Krueger uninformed? I think I'm informed. 209er throws in the super chat. Thank you, 209er. Appreciate you. Gabriel Otero. Larry keeps it 100. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Archer Gazarian. Here's a 20 just to prove my point. Look at you. Look at you. 209er. Pay the man. That's not what this is about. This is if you guys think this is me begging for super chats, it's not. 8089er. How informed are you, Larry? Dubs pulling it off tomorrow? Fuck the beam. And I say that because my brother's a judge up in SAC, and we've had this ongoing thing. If you're tuning in now going, God, why is he so angry? No, I went to Sac State. I've got tons of buddies who still are up there. Little Juan Collins. I asked Aponte. He says you're not informed, Larry. Don't get me revved up. I got to get these guys coming on. That's what I do. That's what I got to do. I got to get Aponte and Steph on here. MF says, is Tim Ryan coming on to chop it up? I will get you Tim Ryan. MF, I have it on my to-do list. Get MF Tim Ryan. Brian Matheson, your KMBR draft analysis were great. You are definite son. Definitely son? Definitively? I have no idea. Brian. The old, the chat that almost made it. Trock Talks. Larry's a Bay Area legend. Also light the beam. Trock Talks is a Kings fan. All right, what do I see with the Warriors and the Kings tomorrow night? The Warriors look gas, baby. They look at the end of their rope. I think the Warriors may be going down in Game 7. Now, if the Warriors bring everything they got, they will win. But they look gassed. And Keegan Murray has improved before our eyes. He has literally grown up in this series. He was a non-factor in Game 1, a non-factor in Game 2. Finally heard from in Game 3. He was the best player on the floor at times in the last game. He has come alive. They're defending Sabonis well, but I don't know. Sacramento's got a lot of energy. The crowd's going to be absolutely going crazy. We'll be on in the postgame. 12:30 start, around 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Join us on the postgame. I'm loving our postgames. I don't know if you guys have caught them, but Frank Red and I have been friends for 25 years. He's on there. Terrific. Cyrus Satsis, Locked On Warriors. To me, Size is good and a really good analyst. We've added JD when he's done with 95.7 The Game, because JD does incredible work at 95.7 The Game on not just the Warriors, on the Niners as well. And JD and I go way back, 20 years, easy. JD's incredibly credible. Incredibly credible? Yeah, incredibly credible. Very credible, maybe. But JD has joined us after his post games throughout this playoff series. I mean, I want the Warriors to win bad because I want to see the Warriors. I want to see the Warriors keep rolling. I mean, I want to absolutely get more run out of this playoff run for Golden State. But JD's been joining us late in the shows. He's incredible. I think I'd put his Warrior. He's so deep on Warriors, it's unbelievable. I mean, there's times where I'm just like, JD, I mean, you are amazing. He's so deep on the Warriors. And then, we got Bay Area Baller. I don't know if you guys know Bay Area Baller, but Bay Area Baller's got his own channel, Bay Area Baller 18. Everybody on the chat, 400 plus people, almost 500. Go check out Bay Area Baller's channel. He does great content. Great dude. He's on there. My good friend Dan Coach Emilio, Ryan Smith. They join us from time to time. Kylan Murray. Mills. Kyler Murray joins us. Kylan Mills joins us from time to time. I was just talking to her husband, Charlie, who works on television. They're going to join us next round, hopefully, as a couple. I said, hey, can you guys join us as like a couple and like share a screen and like give us couple takes? And Charlie said, well, do it. I'm like, awesome, man. So Kylan and Charlie in the next round, joining the Krueger show for some of the Warrior post game. That's going to be cool. That is going to be really, really cool. Archer says, in all seriousness, Larry, you're my number one content creator for quality informed Niner talk. You're a homegrown legend that's been in the game for decades. Respect, brother. Archer, thank you, bro. Appreciate that. Very, very much appreciate that. MF says Giants game at 1:00 too. Oh my God. That's the thing. MF, I got to be honest. I know MF's a big Giants guy. I apologize to all the Giants people out there because I did a ton of Giants last year, and here we are. It's April 29th, and we're almost a month into the baseball season, and I haven't done as much on the Giants this month as I did last year at this time. More Giants is coming, but the truth of the matter is, you know, this Niner draft stuff, all the Niner content creator people that I like to talk to, I've been collabing with Damon Bruce a lot since he got let go. Obviously, all the Warrior post-game shows. I've been doing a lot. So, something always has to get squeezed. I filled in for a week on 95.7 for Dan Dibley in Afternoon Drive 2 weeks ago. So, it's just so hard to do all these videos, cover the Niners, cover the draft, be up on the draft enough to watch all these guys because I can't talk about guys without watching them. And then be all over the Warriors story and then somehow do Giants. So, the Giants has been where basically we've slacked off, if you will. But we will pick it up after the draft and definitely after the Warriors are eliminated. Russell J. Russell, good to see you, brother. It's been a few weeks. He says, new content creators are figuring out the do's and the don'ts. You've been doing this for decades. I don't think you should let them get to you the way they have, brother, wasting good energy, my humble opinion. You're right. Russell J., I need your maturity. Eddie, Larry, you'd lose me if ever I see Kyler Murray on here. You don't like Kyler Murray? Dusty Gold, Stingers up. Sac State, baby. Though I was upset the Giants traded Sammy Long to the A's. Come on. Sammy Long, good guy, Sac State guy. Maybe next year the Giants will sign Reese Hoskins. MF, Larry, I'll always remember listening to your show when Van Halen died. Good memory. Yeah. We. You mean on KMBR? Yeah, I think you're talking about KMBR when me and Rod and Tommy during the pandemic. That's right. Eddie died during the pandemic. Isn't that it? I do remember that. Rod's such a music guy. He's such a music guy that he's just like. It's amazing to me. I was always amazed by how much Rod knew about music because think about it. You gotta take some certain amount of brain cells to keep all the sports stuff in there, and he had the sports stuff down and the music. And he could listen to like three seconds of a song and be like, "That's this by this group," and I'm like, dude, what? I was floored, absolutely floored. Brash Cat says, "I respect Larry in the building, Scout, and Eric Crocker, ex-NFL DB, for actual NFL takes, and I like Grant for the entertainment value." Okay. Gold-blooded. Now we're getting into a Van Halen talk. He says Van Halen died when Sammy Hagar started fronting the band. Did I ever tell you when I met Sammy? Sammy came in to the Bone for a weekend or for a Friday night set with the late, great Billy Steele, who was my good friend, who was a phenomenal FM DJ, who was part of our cluster at the time. KMBR, KFOG, KGO, and The Bone, 107.7 The Bone. And Billy did the night show on The Bone. I did the night show on KMBR. And Sammy Hagar shows up. He's in the lobby. He's got the sun-in hair and the Hawaiian shirt, and I mean, Sammy Hagar just seems like a fun dude. We hung out and talked for like 5-10 minutes. Really cool guy, but it's funny. All the hardcore Van Halen people are like, 5150 was a train wreck. I kind of liked Best of Both Worlds. I kind of liked some of the riffs on that 5150. But man, if you're like hardcore Van Halen, I get it. Archer says, Larry, how many of these draftees do you think actually make the team? That's a good question. Okay. Jair Brown for sure, Jake Moody for sure, Cameron Latu for sure. Even though I don't think Latu was the right pick, he's still going to make the team. Luter makes it for sure. Robert Beal, don't know. 50-50 on Robert Beal. D. Winters makes it for sure. Braden Willis, I think, makes it for sure. I think he's going to be in that mix at fullback or tight end. I think there's a lot to like there. Braden Willis is kind of the interesting one. He's kind of a question mark. Ronnie Bell, I say there's no way he makes it. He might make practice squad. There's no way he makes the roster. I mean, they're going to keep 5 receivers. You have Debo, Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Danny Gray, Tay Martin, Chris Conley, Willie Snead. No. I'd be shocked if Ronnie Bell made the team. Jalen Graham probably doesn't make the team either. He's probably more practice squad. You got to remember this. The Niners are pretty loaded. And the Niners had last year like 14 or 15 rookies that were either on the team or on the practice squad. 808 Niner, brand new member. Thank you, 808. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for joining the Krueger Show. All right. I think that's it. Oh, we got another super chat here. Russell J. Try to get on when you are. I try to get on when you are live, but I'm the North Dakota guy with young kids. Selfishly happy when you are on late. Kids are in bed, bourbon in hand. Russell J. Do you remember that night that you literally sent us like 12 super chats? It was like $5, $2, $5, $2. Finally, at the end of the night, I'm like, dude, Russell J. is just emptying the clip on us tonight. Good memories, at least from my perspective. Good to see you, though. Flav says, Larry, when you saw the 49ers restructure McCaffrey, what were you thinking? I was thinking Trey Lance is going to be traded for Montez Sweat and a pick. By the way, if they're the one takeaway from the Niners, I'm a little nervous about the lack of edge rush that they currently have. All you got for edge rush in this draft was Robert Beal Jr. out of Georgia. That's it for edge rush. I really wanted to see an edge rusher on day 3. There's just Tyrus Wheat. Who got Tyrus Wheat? Can somebody look that up? Who got Tyrus Wheat, the undrafted free agent from Mississippi State? He is badass. I mean, that guy's going to make a team. That guy's going to make somebody's team. I don't know who got him, but he's a hell of a player. There were a bunch of guys. Late in this thing. That night was hilarious. The Fermunda cheese night. Nobody knows what we're talking about. But anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Thanks to everybody. I've never left a chat with 450 people in the room, but I got a bunch of film to watch tonight. It's 10:23. I got to get up early in the morning, and I got a bunch of film to watch. Oh, and by the way, I have 24 starred chats sitting right here that I haven't. Cowboys got wheat. The Cowboys got Fehoko. Uh-oh. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. That is bad. That's bad. Dallas is one of the few teams that's kind of coming on talent-wise. I saw they got Deuce Vaughn, too. Does Deuce Vaughn's kid or dad work for the organization? Russell J. says, seems like they're sitting on cap space for a defensive end signing. Yeah, or a trade. I would love to pick off Montez Sweat. How good would the Niner front be if you had Bosa and Sweat and Hargrave and Armstead? Whew, that would be nice. We got this one from the Car Gods. He says, Larry, the O-line's in need also. You know what? I like the O-line depth. I like the addition of Feliciano. I like Zakel. I like Jalen Moore. I really liked some of the young guys they got there. And then I really love Joey Fisher, who they signed after the draft. Wait until you guys see Joey Fisher. Do you guys know the Joey Fisher story? Let me just say this. If we have 443 people hanging in this room right now, I put out a video today on Joey Fisher that I really want you guys all to, when you're done with this show, go check out. It's gotten more traction than almost any video that we've put out. And I think it's because, one, the Niners signed him. It's draft weekend. There's all that. But I think the other reason is the story is incredibly compelling. I did a deep dive on this guy a few weeks ago when I saw that Mel Kiper had him going to the Niners in the 3rd round. And what I found out was incredible. I mean, this guy's a great story. He had a scholarship to Maryland. He decommitted, and then he went to Towson State, which is right there in Maryland as well, I think, and left there. And so then he basically just was like doing nothing for 3 years. He was out of football for 3 years, trying to get a scholarship. But every time the cycle came, he was left without a scholarship. So his dad was a locksmith, and he worked with his dad in the trade as a locksmith. And he just kind of practiced with his brother and worked out and kept himself active and then found his way back. And Shepherd signed him as a tight end. They looked at him for like a week and said, "You're an O-lineman." They put him on the offensive line, and the guy had an incredible run at Shepherd. I mean, it's a great story. It's an absolute great story. He basically became a 3-year starter at Shepherd, and he gets invited to the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl down in Carson in January, and I watched that game, and I noticed him in the game, and I thought, man, this guy's impressive. He was so good in that game that he got invited to the Senior Bowl. But then during the Senior Bowl, he breaks his hand, and he doesn't get to play in the actual Senior Bowl. And because he didn't play in the Senior Bowl, he wasn't invited to the Combine. So he didn't get a chance to go to the Combine. So he had to just rely on Shepherd's Pro Day. I bet you Shepherd doesn't even have a freaking Pro Day. He probably had to go to like Maryland's Pro Day. I'll have to look that up. But he went to the Pro Day. And at the Pro Day, he did 40 reps of 225. Those 40 reps would have been the number one bench press of any offensive lineman at the Combine. I mean, think about that. He and that's one of those things that there's nothing ambiguous about that. That's not a hometown stopwatch. That's not a wind at your back. That's not there's no factors there. You put up 225 40 times, you're putting up 225 40 times. The most times I've ever put up 225 in my life is 11. Of course, I'm not an offensive lineman. 40 reps of 225. 40! That's just guy's just pumping it out. And if you can do 40 reps at 225, you probably can bench like 450 pounds. If you're just doing a regular bench. So the guy's enormously strong. So if that was it, that would be one thing. At the Pro Day, he ran 4.90. That number would have been the number 140 time of any tackle at the Combine. So he doesn't go to the Combine, but he does more reps and has a faster 40 than any offensive tackle at the Combine. He says he models his game after Trent Williams. The guy's an incredible story. He's an animal. He played defensive line. He's from Hagerstown, Maryland, grew up a Ravens fan. I saw an interview that he did with some on a Steeler podcast a couple weeks ago. And it's hilarious too because there's all these Steeler people who are like, we're not going to hold it against you that you're from Hagerstown, you're a Ravens fan. I mean, but they were like serious. They're like serious, like as a heart attack. Like, how dare you not be a Steeler? But they love this guy, and just an interest. If you type in Joey Fisher on YouTube, you'll see the same interview I saw, or the same, if you Google him, you'll find the same thing. He said he's a big R&B fan. He's a big Boys to Men fan. But yeah, didn't play football for 3 years. And now he's 25. Didn't want to be a lifetime locksmith, but he's got long arms, and this guy is nasty. This is a mauler in the run game. This is what you're looking for at right tackle. All right, this is what you want. So I can't wait to see what he looks like this summer. But that, to me, all the people going crazy about Jake Moody in the third round, Kuiper said they were going Joey Fisher in the third round. They got him undrafted. Instead, they took Jake Moody in the third round. So you know what? It's a trade-off. I think the Niners were right to take Jake. If they really wanted Jake Moody, they were right to take him there. Because I agree with the Niners. He would have gone somewhere else in the fourth round. They would have missed out. He's a super clutch kicker, according to Jim Harbaugh. He made 4 for 4 in the college football playoff. So I got no problem with Jake Moody. At the end of the day, nobody wants to draft a kicker, but guess what? when you're at Lambeau Field next year in the playoffs and the snow's falling and it's, you get to the 30-yard line and you're looking for the game-winning field goal, you're going to be damn fortunate and happy that you have a top-tier kicker if he becomes a top-tier kicker. It's a big if. JT says Winters looks like a stud. Baby Greenlaw. No, Winters. Winters is absolutely monster. That was a great pick. Great pick for sure. All right, let me do this. 430 people still hanging in the room. Let me play 2 minutes of commercials. I'm going to come back. I'm going to read the starred chats, and then we're going to bolt for the door. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. If you want to help the show, go to Pig and a Pickle. Killer barbecue spot. It's in Corte Madera if you're in Marin County. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Great restaurant, great barbecue. The brisket is amazing. If you go to Marin, by the way, they make potato chips that they cook once a day in beef fat. And it's great. And they put on the potato chips the same rub they put on their barbecue chicken. It's unfreaking believable. It's the greatest potato chip I've ever had in my life. Bar none. Amazing. Amazing potato chips. That's a lot of passion for potato chips, by the way. I'm not normally that passionate. But check them out in Corte Madera, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Don't roll in there at 7:45 thinking you're getting exactly what you want. It's a real barbecue place. So they make it, and when it's gone, it's gone. So you get there at 7:45, they're probably going to say, hey, you know what, we're out of the ribs and we've got a little bit of chicken. They run out. It's a real barbecue place. And then check them out. If you're like me and you live out in the East Bay in the Bay Area, they're in Emeryville, inside the Emeryville Public Marketplace. Really cool location. Damon and Mary, the owners of Pig and a Pickle, proud sponsors of the Krueger Show. If you go in there, send me a picture or just go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell me you're a big fan of the Krueger Show, and they love hearing that stuff. So big fans of Damon and Mary and all the people at Pig and a Pickle. The cool spot in Emeryville, but this is what it looks like in Marin County. We'll be back in 2 minutes for our starred chats before we get out of here on the Krueger Show.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
All right, it is time for the Starred Chats, the final part of the show where we go through and I look for my favorite chats and I put them up there, even though they were not super chats. I don't know why people only put up super chats. Come on. We're that you can only put up something if somebody throws you money. Sometimes people have really interesting stuff, like this one from MF. Love that sausage. There you go. Love that sausage. I mean, that's how about, or this from Trock. That old raspy bastard always has to wink at me at the end of this. There you go. That's Pasquale, and be very careful what you say about Pasquale. All right, let's go to the Starred Chats. They should be good. West Coast 57257. Who was the best pick? Wow. The best pick, for the Niners, the Niners' best pick was Jair Brown, for sure. But as far as a sleeper pick, I like both Darrell Luter Jr., the cornerback from South Alabama, who I did a video about before the draft. I also like D. Winters from TCU. Like him a lot. Those guys, to me, are the safest. Luter's got size and speed, and I think he's going to – and there's a need there. Let's be honest. They need him. And Winters is – it's going to be tougher for him to make the roster, but I watched a lot of TCU last year. He's damn good. Damn good. We got this one from Carlo. D. Winters, going to be a baller. I agree. MF said he loved hearing Adam Peters today. I got to go listen to that. Josh said I really wanted Charlie Thomas. Who got Charlie Thomas? Charlie Thomas from Georgia Tech. He's a bad A. Fast, smart, everything. That guy's incredible. Khalil Young. Larry, I hope you're ready for the Trey backlash, brother. They're coming. All right. What can I say? I brought it on myself. Ahmad Z. Krug bet money that Trey was going to be traded. He needs to apologize to Trey. What? Why? Because I said that my reading, I didn't say that I want, if I sat in this chair and said, get him out of here, he sucks, then I need to apologize. I didn't. I said, based on what I'm hearing, guys, I kind of think they're going to trade him, and I think they're going to trade him by the draft. And everything, even Rob, who was on with us tonight, basically, I said they're going to recommit to Brock. Brock's their guy. I said this before John spoke, before Shanny spoke, before Jed spoke. I said they're going to commit to Brock. Brock's their guy. They're not going to have a competition. Brock's going to be the guy. And they're likely to move on from Trey, and it'll probably happen by the draft. That's what I actually said. And then Ryan Hensley wanted to bet me, and I bet him. And now the draft has come and gone, and he's right, and I'm wrong. Trey's still here. But am I really wrong? Because Brock, they're still going to commit to Brock. And they're still likely to move Trey, if you believe Ian Rappaport. If you don't believe Ian Rappaport, then maybe, who knows? I know Ryan is a big supporter of Trey, but I am too. And he thinks that Trey's going to hit the field, play great, and never look back. He's going to be the starter going forward. And you know what, Ryan? I think there's a very good chance that also happens. But are they going to give him that opportunity? That we don't know. Sounds like they are, but I don't know. It's been a very confusing offseason for me. I'm very confused. Michael Monahan. Larry, no Lance trade because the league doesn't value him, or they did, but just not as much as the Niners. Yeah, I would love to know what the Niners wanted. And I would love to know if anybody actually reached out. And the fact of the matter that Houston, who has D'Amico and Rand Carthon there in Tennessee that were with the Niners, and they both went quarterback, and neither of them came for Trey Lance, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good at all. It almost makes you and it makes sense, right? If the Niners don't like him and they work for the Niners, then maybe they don't like him. It's a lot of theorizing. Tian Pommel says, "Thank you, Larry. Really appreciated the coverage." Thank you. JJ says Winters is a stud. Gregus Khan, Winters' 10-yard split was 156. He'll be part of a blitz package along with Jair Brown. RLB2ESQ. Larry, let's talk pig in a pickle bet. I'll be paying it off. I'll be paying. Ryan Hensley will be eating. Have we analyzed it enough? T-Dub was at the Penn State Northwestern game this year. Jair had a pick and was being moved all over the field pre-snap. Clear he was the leader of the D. Yeah. See, that what nobody talks about, because most people don't realize who the people are. They only realize who the players are. But in the room, they lost a lot when they lost Mosley. And in the room, when they lost Jimmy Ward, they lost maybe one of like 2 leaders, 3 leaders on the team. I'd say Eric Armstead, Fred Warner. You know, they lost Mike McGlinchey. He was a leader. There's a few others, but Jimmy Ward was definitely a leader. When I wanted an answer, I could go to Jimmy. When Jimmy heard me talking to other people, if he thought I was wrong, he'd come over and be like, bro, I'll tell you where you're wrong. I mean, he's a leader in the room. He was vocal. So they didn't just lose football players. They lost alphas, guys who were true leaders, guys who were tone setters. So it was really important on the back end that they re-signed Tayshaun Gibson, and they did, and because they're going to be a very young secondary, and that they bring in not just young, talented, fast guys. They bring in guys who are culture guys. And all the scouts that I've talked to about Jair were like, this guy would play for free. You know, this is the kind of guy who lives in the facility. This is the kind of guy who sets the tone. That's important. Only 60 subs away from 17,000. Let's go. My son putting that in there. Thanks, Kev. Troc Talks. Larry got the Krug Show shirt on. That's right. Larry, you slinging the merch? Slanging that merch? Yes. If anybody wants a T-shirt, a Krug Show T-shirt, they come in size large, XL, double XL, and there's 3 or 4 triple XLs for some of our bigger fans. $25 plus $10 to ship. And just tell me you want one, what size, what your address is. DM me on Twitter. I'll give you my Venmo. And I just sent out 4 last week. People just contacting me. Just send me the Venmo, and I'll mail it out to you the next day. Gregus Khan. They're going to sign Yannick. You think Ngakwe's coming here? Maryland kid? He's out there. The Car Gods. Trey Lusionals. Just people. There's a lot of people that see the talent in Trey, and they're like, they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. I'm one of them. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes either. How could a guy go from the face of the franchise, everything's built around him, to he's not, and they may move him in 1 year? So, it's been a big year. Lots going on. Steve-O Supremo, great name, restructured for Trey to be traded clearly. Oh, the restructuring of McCaffrey. That was my read, but who knows? Didn't happen. Troc Talks, PFF is right about the Niners having the worst draft. I don't think it was the worst draft, but I would have liked another edge rusher. This was an awesome edge rusher class, and you got Robert Beal Jr. There were so many good edge rushers, so many. Maybe they'll get one after the draft. And once I see the full list, and I'll do the deep dive, watch all these guys, see what they look like. Some will look like nothing, but there's going to be some guy that they're bringing in as an undrafted guy that probably at this time tomorrow I'm going to be telling you guys about. Because once I do the deep dive and watch these guys, I know who I watch, but I'm not a pro personnel guy, and I'm not a college personnel guy. I don't have that job. So I haven't seen everybody. And I've never pretended to see everybody. So there's 5 or 6 guys that I've never seen before that I'm going to watch tonight. So tune in tomorrow. We should have some new breakdown on some of these guys. Skyscraper 3000. Larry and Stats are a great fit. Really nice pod today. Thank you, bro. Car Gods, they're still trading Trey, Larry, in August because of cap reasons and build at least some value to the kid. Wow. Really? Is that the way it's going down? RLB, you should double down too, Larry, because I said Trey's going to be traded later. I think I've had enough with the guarantees and the bets. The Car Gods, Trey Lance is a bust. Ugh. If that's reality, that's hard to stomach, man. And I'll say this, if he's a bust, that's on me too, because I was the guy during that draft who was saying, don't go Mac Jones, go Trey Lance. Don't go Justin Fields, go Trey Lance. I was all in, total belief. He was the guy. Be very, 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 very upset if he is actually indeed a bust. Car Gods, the Trey Lance cap will save the Niners $7 million plus if he gets traded after June. So yeah, Trey's gone. We'll see. 916_Niner. Lazy, and uninformed, Larry. Urbanic, lazy and uninformed. Gabriel Lopez Jr., the last couple days, Larry, would it be safe to say that you probably had somewhere between 2 to 3 hours of free time and the rest of your life has been on YouTube live streaming? LOL. Larry, not lazy. Thank you. Yeah, I'll say this. The one thing I love about this, not the one thing, but one thing I do love about this, I got a kid who plays high school baseball. I've been at every game. I got a kid that plays not high school, but like whatever it is, juniors or whatever. I'm at every game. So that's really cool. And like my man Hensley, we may go back and forth, and I don't always agree with him, and he doesn't always agree with me, but we have a mutual respect. But what I love about Rye, today, he went and watched or not today, I think, was it yesterday? Yesterday. Warriors going, draft going. He's got the channel, but he went and watched his son perform in track and field. Tells me a lot. Tells me a lot about Rye. Tells me he's a hell of a guy. Archer Gazarian, Larry, I noticed the Broncos signed Alex Palczewski from the undrafted free agent list. I was really hoping we'd pick him up after the draft. Saw your video on him and loved it. Yeah. He's real, man. I really like that guy. Carl says, whoever wins tomorrow will be down 0-1 in the next round since LeBron will have 5 days of rest. I'm going to take the Warriors-Kings winner to beat the Lakers. I don't know if I believe in the Lakers. One last super chat, Daryl Smock. Larry, is it possible that the 49ers could possibly keep Trey Lance as number 2 instead of trading him since they're sold on Brock Purdy being the number one quarterback? Absolutely. They could. Personally, if they're going to get like some late round pick in next year's draft, why wouldn't you keep him? But something weird is going on though. I thought it was weird that the Vikings took Jaron Hall. I think they probably have interest in Trey. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe take Lynch at face value. He said that, Christensen, this coach that Trey was working with, they had a breakthrough, that Trey's going to be a new and improved player, and he's going to be quite a bit better this summer. It's possible. I hope. That would be incredible. Yeah. And then, once again, 49er George with the $100 super chat, with the thank you on the super chat. Thank you, 49er George. All right, that's going to do it for us. Tomorrow on the channel, what do we got cooking tomorrow on the channel? Hit like and subscribe for all of you who have yet to hit like and subscribe. Please do. Please support the channel. If you want a T-shirt, just DM me and I'll get one coming to you. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on this great Sunday morning, Ryan Hensley and I will chop it up tomorrow and talk more about Trey Lance. We're going to get beyond it, though. We are going to get beyond it because we're both getting obsessive. So, but we'll talk about our bet, I'm sure. So tomorrow, check me out. I'll be on Rise Channel. And then post-game, tomorrow afternoon, Game 7. Red, Baller, Cy, JD, Danny, Ryan, everybody's going to be in the house. We're going to have a knockdown, drag-out post-game. And then 1 o'clock on Monday, the great Raj will be in the house from RSF 49ers. I believe I'll be collabing with Grant on Monday. Vish and I want to collab too. Maybe Vish tomorrow. I'll have to call Vish, send Vish a note tomorrow. I know the one thing with Vish is like so cerebral and so Vish doesn't like getting into the draft where it's like he wants a stationary target so he can go find out who they drafted and then go do his deep dive on it. So Vish is going to have lots of opinions on the Niners draft and every guy they drafted, But he didn't want to come on like, the day of the draft and still just be like, well, we'll see. Vish likes to be totally informed. So we got a stream coming up. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday, but me and Vish will be getting together for a little Niners draft live stream action coming your way. So thanks to all of you. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Have a great night. Thanks to Rob Guerrera. Sorry it got ugly there for a while. Have a great night. We will see you tomorrow morning on the Krueger Show.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer.